It's too cold for those sounds.
Not here. How's it going, guys? How's everybody doing? Hey, Roseville, California. Hello. How are y'all? Oak Hills, California. I heard they had a tornado in California, which isn't very common the other day. Yeah, I think this last camera was a little more than this computer wanted. But
This is how you earn that. What does they say? Gear junkie title.
well, you know, let me see what my resource manager says here. I know I'm taxing the crap out of it. Oh, but yeah, it wouldn't be so bad if all these cameras didn't have to have their own little app.
Well,
So
you don't
I
have
need
to
to do
run the
something about
apps;
that.
they can run natively.
I can't get the Sony to pick up without it.
I don't know what you're doing. I haven't ever loaded the Sony stuff on mine.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh. I might have to look
but
into that.
you gotta you gotta switch the camera into webcam mode each time though.
All right.
That's the view everybody wants of you.
Ah, well. Hey, it's better than what.
Now that's the audio we want to hear of you too. See, you hooked up all these toys, and now
Ah,
it's
wrong
giving me
button.
trouble. Oh, there we go.
Right. Yeah, I hit the mute button. I hit the mute button. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been playing with it just like in the house, but it's a little different when you get all this stuff running. I should have probably done a live test. Well, how is everybody? Hello from Ontario. Some of your neighbors up there, Steve.
I mean,
Let's see. We got 30. All right. Southern. It said it was Southern California that got the tornado. I just had never heard of. I guess it's probably the news just don't report on them, but I had never heard of too many tornadoes in California. Yeah, it's a little rainy down here in my neck of the woods tonight as well. So if y'all hear the rain on the tin roof, guys, that's just the tin roof for you. Hopefully it won't get bad. If it gets too bad, power goes out, y'all may lose me. Hopefully that won't happen. If it does, Steve can take it from there.
yeah. Well, let's hope that you keep power. No one wants that. So,
All right. Well, what's on the agenda for tonight, Steve? Other than I'm overexposed because I can't adjust my camera.
well, you're overexposed. I'm a little underexposed, so we're balancing each other out. But I don't know. People probably noticed a little different background here. I'm out in the big shop tonight. Been doing a few more things out here, although it's still chilly. I've got it warmed up to 50 degrees in here right now.
Warmed up to 50.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what the temperature is here, Steve. It'll just offend you. But let's just say I got the shop door open.
I
But
mean,
it
I
is
could open mine,
thundering.
but
Yeah. But no, I did the video that everybody was asking me about doing with the showing how to adjust the machine. I have one that needed a little bit of fine tuning, the ASMR that we got, and so I went ahead and really messed it up like really bad, and then did a video of me messing around with fixing it and explaining to everybody what I mean when I say you got to be patient to do laser engraving because it took a little bit of work. You know how it is. Sometimes you adjust and you adjust too much, and then you have to go back and readjust.
yep. Well, I'd still rather adjust those than the mirrors on a large laser.
Oh, I agree. All right, so nobody's got no questions. Brian says he's got snow on the ground. That's not good. 9 inches of snow. Jeez,
Yeah,
I wouldn't make it.
Wisconsin got hit pretty bad, and I'm just biting my tongue over here because it's been cool, but it gets above freezing during the day, so we get a little melt off. Can kind of keep it that way. We got two rivers that converge here in the town I live at, and so you get a lot of snow in the winter. You got to risk springtime flooding. So I'm
Brian,
okay with the snow melt off being slow, but I'd like it to warm up.
yeah, Brian, that video, I haven't published it yet. It's still doing. YouTube's having to check everything. It'll be out in the morning. Uh, but I uploaded it a little while ago. I just did it a little earlier. It was I was trying to get that machine ready. I've got a rotary for the Asmer that they sent me to try out. And before I tried the rotary, I wanted to make sure that everything else was adjusted. And there was a little bit of adjustment needed for the machine, but I went and really messed it up before the video so you guys could see how big of a difference just a little bit of adjustment can be. So, but that'll be out in the morning hopefully. And I know Steve got his camera video out. How did that end up going well for you, Steve?
Well, well, I don't think Sunday mornings are the days to launch an early video because it was a little slow at first, but we'll see. I debated this, and I think I even mentioned it to you that I went through all the steps of setting it up and then ways to use it, and it ended up a bit long. It's a half-hour video, and I'm probably going to go back and put the timestamps in so people can jump around. But what I found out on past ones, if I don't put that in there, there's a bunch of questions about, these other things. So I put it in there to try to hopefully, if someone's getting it really would work for most any camera in Lightburn. I do cover, the flexibility of it and a couple of the gotchas, but, for the most part, it is what it is. And it's more about setting up in the software than actually rigging it up on the machine and such. So, so we'll see. Some of those, they take off slow, but then build up after there as people are looking for that information. But glad to have that one done because I got other things that I need to work on as well and trying to do some other fun projects. Try to get ready for being on the road in a few weeks. I tell you,
Yep.
If you're ever planning a road trip, look at reviews, but then don't look at reviews because they'll just make you want to stay home. Eric's got a question.
Yep.
And you're muted again, I think.
All right.
Middle of a job and a 10-watt Congo. So, Eric, how old is yours? I know some of the newer ones have a cover lens on it, kind of like the X Tool and others. Do you know if yours has that cover lens on the bottom that can come off? I've seen that where, if something happens where that lens gets cracked, it'll still run, it'll still make light, but it won't be cutting very well. Usually it's something there that's gotten dirty or cracked on that end. It's the first thing to look for anyway.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But
Pretty sure you're
like I said,
still
as long
muted.
as it's showing, it's coming out. Hang on. I can hear myself.
Okay, so you cleaned it and you don't see anything. Double check all your wires then. Sometimes those pins get dirty. They stop conducting well. Or on my CNC machine, I've actually had a pin just barely back out. And so that starts kind of freaking out a little bit. So even though it looks like the harness for all the cables might be plugged in, it's worth it to look at each individual pin as well. Make sure something hasn't worked loose.
Yeah, if it's one of those places that bends a lot too. You may want to make sure the conductor hasn't broken.
I still can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can, but
They saying they can hear me. I don't know what it is, Steve. So I guess that means I can talk. Can I talk bad about Steve now, guys? Y'all think? Why he can't hear me? I bet I can. I bet I can talk bad about him now. All right. So what else we got? Mix minus issue.
apparently my headphones decided to go to sleep.
Uh-huh. Blame it on me.
It was so peaceful. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I like my new toy, but it is putting a little bit too much pressure on my computer. I'm gonna have to step it up or something because it is a little choppy tonight. But I got so many things running over here.
I would never do such a thing, Tom. Never.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would. I, I don't know that it matters. What do you think, Steve? You're more analytical on this stuff.
Um, yeah, it might be worth trying out to see if it makes a difference, because it's all in how the software is trying to adjust for the optical aberrations it's seeing, and I think it's plausible, but I without trying it, I don't know. Um, yeah, I think,
Ah,
what are you doing?
I figured out what my problem is.
Okay.
God, I hate. Have I mentioned I hate the energy saving features in Windows?
Ah, I think, as far as cameras, the higher resolution and the further away you can get from the board, the better. I think the problems that a lot of people run into is if you have to have too wide of an angle, you're going to have that kind of optical aberration at the edges anyway. So, you know, if you can go with a taller mount and a higher resolution camera with a narrower field of view, I think you're going to have a more accurate across the board setup. But yeah, I've tried multiple cameras and I can get them all close, but then you always have the little gotchas where it's off, by maybe a millimeter, and that can be a lot depending on what you're doing. So
Now, Jack, what happened is when I brought the laptop out here to the shop, uh, I put it on. I unplugged it. I thought I plugged it back in, and I didn't. And apparently, my battery got down to like 18%, and it kicked on my. That's what let me know why my machine wasn't operating optimally. Because this gaming laptop, when you unplug it from the wall, it automatically switches off performance mode
yeah, it
into
goes in.
standard mode. And when it does, it just restricts everything. But you can't run this thing at full output without having it plugged into the wall, or it'll last like 5 minutes. Oh, so that I don't have any stuttering or anything now that my GPU and everything's fired up. But earlier it was more or less it was in eco mode, and that's the reason that it was having trouble. Rookie mistake, guys. Sorry about that.
So Viking, as far as the air assist switch in Lightburn, you have to have a controller that is you have to have a controller that supports it on your laser or a solenoid somewhere that is being able to read that command to be able to then turn off the air assist. So in some ways, that's just a solenoid that controls an air valve on like larger CO2s, or on some of the smaller lasers, it'll actually control the power to the air pump that it'll turn on and off. So if your laser doesn't support it, no, it won't do anything for you, because it's just sending a command on a certain pin on a controller to say on or off is really all it's doing. Um, so you have to have something like that. So the Sculpt Run S30 Pro series does that. The Creality one that Clack's got does that. A lot of the larger CO2s either have it integrated or it's not terribly difficult to add because their controller has the board pinouts that you can add one to. But most of the diodes don't have it, although we're starting to see some of them come out with them, I would say, in the past few months.
Yeah, the Creality does have it. No, Penny, the CPU and the GPU, the graphics card is what I was talking about. It cuts off when I'm on low power mode. But that's a different question, isn't it? I was going to say, I got another one over here Brian's wanting to know about that you might can relate to. But we can go ahead with this one first. Cut layer. You already answered that one. God. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up with the comments over here. So, all right. Not sure I understand this one. Acer and Lightbird, download the file from Acer, which is your settings for the machine. Is that a comment, Brian? What is that? Or is that are you just trying to compliment Steve's beard? Hey, I got something for Brian when he does that tonight, by the way. I got a little something for him. Oh, he's answering a question. Okay, I thought it was a question. Whew. This whole computer thing got me messed up, guys. One of these days, I'm going to have everything set up and ain't got to move it around. Oh, he was answering Rhonda's question. Here comes the rain, guys. I'm sorry if it's too annoying.
I can hear it.
I can try to turn a filter on to get rid of it now that I got my computer running right.
Yeah, that's lovely. So Jim's asking about the X-Tool P2. It doesn't support the built-in camera or autofocus and light burn. It's mentioned in the FAQ, the word currently. Yeah, so they've been slowly releasing information about their new CO2 laser. And the official launch is on April 5th when most of the things will be answered, hopefully, about this. But that was one of the bummers I saw, is that they do have this dual camera setup. And that would be, it's supposed to allow the software that's built into it, that comes with it, to be able to kind of take a 3D rendering of your surface and be able to compensate for that. However, neither of those cameras are allegedly compatible with being able to just use it natively in Lightburn. So you won't have that feature. And apparently the pass-through feature maybe as well is something that is only controlled through their software. So I think that's going to, I don't know, that their software is going to need to be, on point, or it's going to frustrate a lot of people with that machine, because they're asking a pretty premium for it. So the software better be up to par with it, I think. So, but we'll see.
Can you still hear me, Steve, without the rain now?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay, I had to turn my NVIDIA filter on. I had killed a bunch of apps earlier because I thought that was the problem. What is the thickest? There you
go. What is this? Well, okay. This is going to be one of those, it depends.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, there are some softer woods and solid hardwoods that you're going to be able to get through, I would say, up to about 1/2 inch. Beyond there, it's plausible. Technically, you can get through it, but the quality of the cut is probably going to be less than desired. Now, when you start talking about plywoods, again, it's going to depend on the type of plywood. I would say 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch are going to be fine with a 10 watt. 1/2 inch maybe, depending on the core and the glue, and it's going to take quite a few passes, a quality air assist, a good setup. But going back to the regular wood, you can have a really lightweight wood such as poplar or basswood, and it's going to cut through that a lot faster and a lot cleaner as compared to, say, an oak, which is a harder, denser wood. And the more passes you have to make, the slower you have to go, the more charring you're going to get, and the worse that cut's going to be. But I would say, in general, you're going to be good at 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch type material, both in hardwoods and most plywoods. You can get a little bit thicker in that with hardwoods, but plywoods I wouldn't really touch anything over a 1/4 inch with a 10 watt. You can do it, but you're going to be slow and probably kind of frustrating.
Okay. You still hear me?
You and your rain, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get some of it out, but oh, somebody was asking over here how to do the alignment. I think me and you both have videos on that. Let me turn it on while I hear the rain.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to feel that.
So I've got a couple on it. One, they're based around the Comgrow camera that I did a few months ago, and then just this morning I released one on the Atom Stack. And while I talk about the features of the new Atom Stack camera, the bulk of the video is how to align and calibrate, and then do some tests with it. So I can that like I say, it's my latest video. It's just out this morning. Would definitely help with most any other camera. Once you have it installed and Lightburn recognizing it, then you can kind of go through the steps from there. And I walk through all of them. So hopefully that's useful for people.
Yeah, we both have the videos. It's during rain.
So Ron, on belt tensioning, it's fairly universal. You're going for where the belt is not slack. You want it tight so that things don't move around too wildly and that it can't jump teeth. But yes, if it is too tight, that can put strain on the pulleys, and if you have the, what do they call that, the timing bar between the two, it can cause issues there. Uh, One thing that is somewhat universal is that if you take your laser and tilt it up to about a 45 degree, you want your gantry just to kind of smoothly move down to the other side. It shouldn't stick, it shouldn't race down. That will get you fairly accurate on that one. And as far as your other one, it needs to move around with just a little resistance, but it shouldn't be too hard to push, and you shouldn't feel resistance, and it also shouldn't just slide wildly. But yeah, it can be a little frustrating, but it's definitely worth taking some time to play with it to try to make sure that's spot on.
Yeah, I know in my video, Steve, of how to put the D1 Pro together, I go over that as far as the belt tensioning and stuff.
Yeah, and there was someone that shared. I should see if I still have it for the X tool itself.
Lost
There
your camera,
is.
Steve.
I see that. There's a 3D printed tensioning tool that is supposed to work pretty well. All right, give me just a second.
Uh-oh. While Steve is away, guys, anybody got anything you need to say about him? he's having he's having an issue today. I'm having issues. Steve's having issues. Y'all know how it is. If you use computers, if you use lasers, you know that it happens. Uh, Hello, Steve. We may have lost him altogether, guys. There may be no more Steve. All right, so I'll keep it rolling here. I'm guessing y'all can still hear me and everything, can't you? Oh, here he comes. Oh yeah, we got quiet Steve here today.
Backup camera.
We thought you had failed.
Yeah.
here's a question that I haven't got. Is the rain better? I did some playing with the apps, tried to
It's
filter it.
okay. It's okay. It's okay on my end.
Okay. The new 8-series rotary, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have been so busy, I haven't had a chance to crank it out yet. I got hit with an order for 7 stove covers and 25 cutting boards the other day, and I got a bunch of equipment to test out delivered, and all that within a couple of days. And I just haven't got a chance to go back and fire up the 8-series and do the tumblers yet because it's kind of it's in the queue, and I will be getting to it. But for right now, it's just kind of it's there till I can get to it. Hopefully this week I'll be able to get. I'm gonna be off this week and getting some stuff done. Yesterday I was trying to knock out my honeydew list. There was a rotten board on the back doorsteps that needed to be replaced. So I was like, I'm gonna knock that job out really quick. And when I removed the rotten board, I found like 20 others under it. So I wound up building a whole new set of doorsteps yesterday. And so it took most of the day. And I'm trying to get caught up. Software good. All right, here you go, Steve. They're talking to you there, Steve.
X20 Pro and have installed the extension kit. I've noticed I had before. Far end of the bar, the wheels of the screw. Are you talking about the screw that holds the belt in, or I'd have to look at mine again. Um, far end of the bar. Yeah, I mean, I have mine out here. I can take a quick look at it to try to compare. Um, yeah, I guess that's my follow-up question. Okay, so yes. Uh, yeah, so you should be able to move those out to the very ends, and if it's hitting there, then you might need to adjust your working area because it shouldn't quite roll to the absolute extent of the rails. Um, I don't know that I can drag mine over here to show very well without moving a bunch of stuff, but the those screws that do hold down the belts, you should be able to back those up to the very end of the extrusion, and then that should keep it from hitting it. If it's still hitting it, it's probably an adjustment in the actual working area that needs to be bumped back by a few millimeters to prevent that.
Yeah, I don't have one of those yet.
Yeah, hopefully the new what is it, the 30 watt or 35 watt or 33 watt or whatever they're in.
The 30 Atom Stack
Yeah.
X30. Yep. You're supposed to have that one coming as well, aren't you? With the other Atom Stack accessories that they sent. So,
Yep.
yeah, everybody. Hopefully, me and Steve will get to try out the 30 watt, and I'm really excited to try it. I have an Atom Stack. It's the little bitty P9. Steve's got the 20 watt, which he likes. So I'm kind of looking forward to trying it out. Because right now I'm running my 8-series, my primary machine. I've got my D1 20 watt as my secondary. And then I've got the other machines as backup. So when I get those really big jobs.
Yeah, Jim, I know that's going to be my next one. I've been working on a few. I've got it set up and working on the LM3. And so now I've got to run all the things through it. So I've got some tumblers. I've got some glass cups. I've got some miscellaneous things. So that'll be the next few days. So hopefully, if I don't get too interrupted in the next couple of days, I'll be able to get it out mid to late week. So
Yeah. Said Philip said that's what he's using now. And he said it cuts. Oh,
that is a lot of rain you're getting.
Yeah, and I'm filtering. Trying to.
So
Let me see if I can filter a little better.
But yeah, Adam Stack, they seem to have come out with that new Maker line of accessories along with their latest stuff. So it's that camera. You did your video on the bed as well. It was interesting. And then what? Oh, they've got their Chuck rotary coming out as well, isn't it? That's the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got the Acer. As soon as I can get time, I'm gonna do the rotary on it. You still hear me okay?
You're really faded, but it's more of the rain than you right now, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to run it through some filters, see if I can get rid of it. How about there?
Perseus, you're asking worth trying the airbrush compressor or no? A lot of the lasers basically come with a air pump that's equivalent to one of those. Early on, I actually tried that with my original X tool before I got the official setup with the air pump. I would say it worked just as well as theirs. So if that's what you're looking at, yeah, if you've got one in hand, you can definitely give it a shot. If you're using a normal air compressor, then you'd want to make sure you put a moisture trap in there. But the airbrush ones, you should be fine just going straight.
Did I get rid of my rain, Steve?
Yeah, I can tell you're filtered.
Woo. Put the volume up, that'll help. I just didn't want to hurt nobody's ears.
It's struggling with you. Jack, I don't have any direct experience with Niji. I've talked with a friend who's got one that has been enjoying it. But now, Clack, you've been talking with them. You might be getting something from them.
Which one's that?
Well, he's talking about the Niji 4640. I don't know which.
They're supposed to be sending me that whatever the large one that they have is. It's like the 850 by whatever is it the 3 Max or something like that? Supposed to have it coming. Yeah, this rain is coming down.
So, so Chris, if you're hearing if you're hearing popping and you're using the honeycomb, that can be gas collecting in those little pockets. Do you have a gap to allow airflow underneath to make sure that has an escape route? They're called micro explosions from the vapor that's released underneath the material. That's what normally stains it if you aren't using a honeycomb and putting it direct on metal. But if it's also trapped in there, like it doesn't have anywhere to go in those little honeycombs, they can actually, when the laser goes back over them, it can actually ignite those as well. And so you get what are called little micro explosions. So I would say it's not abnormal, but it's something you might want to add a little airflow. Just if you can elevate your honeycomb by even just a quarter to a 3/8 of an inch to allow some airflow under there, that should help a lot with that.
Yeah, the 20-watt machines, the really high-powered machines, tend to do that a little more in my opinion, as far as the 10s versus the 20s. It just seems to be a little more common. Right.
Well, you can keep the rain for now. We're still melting our groundwater that's frozen on top. So
yeah. It's pretty intense out there.
Okay, so yeah, Chris says he did put the clear rubber pieces on the honeycomb. Yeah, it'll help if there's any way you can direct your airflow underneath there. So, like if you're using an enclosure, like one of the fabric ones, you can just unzip the front flap a little bit to allow air to come in at the bottom. Or if there's another way, that'll also help. Um, but you can also just elevate it with a little bit more and see if that helps clear it up. If you've got some small pieces of plywood, um, just stack them up. Those are kind of even. You can put them in the corners. It should do about the same as the rubber feet, but maybe extend it some more.
Yeah, if you get a little bit more distance under there too, I think what it also helps with getting the heat from the laser dot away from those vapors a little bit. So I have found that if you elevate the honeycomb a little, it cuts down on those. But one thing you might want to look at is how nasty is your honeycomb. It may be time for a cleaning if it's doing it constantly.
Yeah, that could be.
Because break out the old oven cleaner.
Yeah, oven cleaner works. Really, any degreaser that you can let kind of sit and soak on it, and then if you can use I wouldn't use high pressure because you can bend some of those fins sometimes, but a little bit of water pressure will clean those right up. Just make sure you get them dry. If it's nice out, you can leave them out in the sun. That'll help. Otherwise, if you can kind of get some air moving across it, otherwise it'll rust up quick too. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the rain. It's quieting down a little bit now. Yeah, the magnets, especially if your honeycomb is metal, magnets work really good for spacers because the laser can't destroy them or set them on fire. And like the ones that come with the X tool honeycomb, they have the plastic on them, which I don't understand, but it will. If you turn the metallic side up towards the honeycomb, they don't melt or burn as easy.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Jim, I've used LA Awesome as well. It's a nice, inexpensive, um, it's a non-hazardous cleaner to use. Works really well on this and for cleaning saw blades, table saw blades and such. Soak it in that, brush it down. Works really well. Get that pitch off the teeth.
All right. Well, I turned my filter off because folks were saying it was delaying my audio. It quit raining for now.
Yeah, it's still a little static with you now, though.
Well, it's still raining. It just ain't. It ain't raining like it was.
Okay.
This is ridiculous how much it's raining out here. What you laughing about? What'd Brian say?
I just put it up in the window there for you.
Hey, Brian, I've actually considered getting myself a little small one and sitting over there because, especially on this big machine, you start cutting out boxes. Those little squares, man, it's time consuming trying to get all those little guys up.
Yeah, no, a shop vac. Now, if you're going with the battery operated one, now you're just, I don't know, maybe you're just flexing a little bit there. But I've always used a shop vac to clean out the little tabs and whatnot that are left behind. It makes it so much quicker, especially if you're doing, jumping from job to job and you have little, the slot cutouts from things. It makes it go really fast. Now, if you really want to have fun, you get a cyclone separator on top of your shop vac, or in line from your shop vac, and all your stuff will spin in that cyclone really fast until you turn it off.
Penny, I don't have a X20 to do. You're the second or third person to ask me about the jig kit for the X20. I got a buddy that told me he was going to send me the measurements so that I could build one that has one, but I hadn't got those measurements yet. So we'll see.
Hey man, I talked about the sculpt fun. I don't know about this atom stack stuff.
Oh, wait. But if the X20 and that new 30 watt, if the chassis are the same, then there may be one coming as soon as I can get it. But we'll see. listen to my
Yeah,
audio, see what it sounds
unless
like.
they've changed things a lot, I would imagine they're going to be pretty much the same. Because I've got a 5 watt, what is it, laser storm, per gear laser storm, which is I mean the laser module still says Atom Stack on the side of it. It is an Atom Stack machine.
So it's
The
just got new
frame,
stickers.
well, yeah, the screen printing or whatever on the aluminum is just different, but everything else is identical. And I think that is the same as my A20 Pro frame. So yeah, we could definitely get some. We can get some measurements going out for you. But
Hey, have you ever done a hockey puck? Somebody's asking. I don't even know if we have hockey teams down here.
I know some people have. I haven't looked into, there. It just comes down to what's the material. Um, is it safe to engrave or not? There's a lot of people who are far more nonchalant about it than I am. Um, so I like to try to confirm. I try to avoid chemically things if I can. In general, you might notice, and I'm talking about cleaning stuff. I might go for something that's a little less aggressive. It takes more time, but the VOCs tend to bother me and such. But some of that has to do with just some respiratory issues that are in my family, so I try to avoid them. But that would be the thing to check to see what type of rubber or vinyl or whatever else that hockey puck is made out of. Kind of the same thing with baseballs. A lot of that leather is questionable. Even some gloves, if they've been tanned with the silver tanning, it can be dangerous to you and your machine. So you just want to be kind of be aware of what it is.
Yes, sir. My chat's done messed up now. There it goes. I keep getting an error on my chat messages, so if I miss one, I'm sorry, guys. I can only see the ones that are on the screen right now.
Here you go.
No, I tried to. That's what hung me up as I replied to Jack, and that's way too much work, too time consuming. Not to mention, I don't know what the shipping would be, but it'd be like shipping a small truck.
Yeah, I had a lot of people when I launched my video it's been over a year. People started asking for the cut list and then also asking if I'd produce kits. And I've produced kits on my CNC machine before, but this one we were talking a lot of parts. The largest one was over 2 feet square. And it's hard to, by the time you buy a large sheet of plywood and then cut it down and ship it along with other parts, I don't know. I'm afraid the price I'd want for it would mean people wouldn't want to pay for it. So then,
Yeah, there is such a thing. Yeah, there is such a thing as you can't make money off of it because, I mean, you wind up upside down. Because I wouldn't, I wouldn't pay that kind of money.
Yeah.
The shipping alone would be astronomical.
So I had one guy that was very persistent, and I was trying to be nice and helpful and such. And he finally just tell me what you would charge to cut out the parts for me. And I thought, all right, well, this will be my trial run. And the other part to that was, so he got all the parts and such, and it, this isn't like Legos. You still need to have a little bit of ability to, build a box. You got to have a few tools and such. And the amount of questions that I was getting from one person was just like, I can't, I got a full-time job. I got family. I'm, trying to do my own stuff, more content. I was just like, I can't do this for every single person that buys one from me because they don't have the gear to do it. So, there were a couple people we were trying to find maybe another place that had the capacity to do it. But, most of the shops that have the CNCs that would do this commercially, again, they're going to charge hundreds of dollars per item. So it's sometimes tough in those.
Yeah, John's got a question here. And John, there isn't going to be a way to turn that off in Lightburn. You're going to have to do that in XCS under the settings of the machine. And I guess it was a translation error, but when you go to the flame sensor, you'll see like sensitive or high, low, and then don't show again. The don't show again is turn off the flame sensor. That's what that should say. But it got lost in translation or something. So when you go into the settings, look for don't show again and check that box, and the flame sensor will no longer be a concern. And I thought after they did a couple of patches, they would change that text. But guys, it's still there. It still says the same thing. I don't know why. Somebody else had something else too. Oh, I was asking about my doormat. It's holding up pretty well considering, because guys, I live on a sand pile. It's really sandy. Now it hasn't dried out in the past week, so it's kind of hard to tell what it looks like, right now because it's wet. But I'll give it a couple more weeks, and when it dries out, I'll bring it to the shop here, blow the dirt out of it. We'll look at it one night. But right now it's soaking wet because it is out in the weather. It's not in the house. It's not under a porch. It's out in the weather. So if it holds up, it'll be good. But so far it is.
So Jack, Xtool has theirs locked down so where it really doesn't accept configuration changes from the console in Lightburn.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. You got to go into XCS and do the changes that they'll allow you to make, which is good from that standpoint because people aren't going to muck up the machines. But it also, as someone who likes to play and adjust and make my own changes to things, yeah, it's frustrating. That's where some of these other lasers are nice because it's a straight G code board and give it Gerbil commands and it takes them. So.
How about that one, Steve? I have nothing. Penny, I'm guessing Silhouette. Isn't that like a Cricut type?
Yeah, I think so.
Software?
I know some people have used it. I don't. So my vinyl cutter uses their own software as well, and even in that one, I don't design in it. I usually design in, graphics software or CAD software, and then I just import it into whether it's Lightburn for the laser, VCarve for the CNC, or the cutting software for my vinyl cutter. So unfortunately, I don't have any good advice on that, but I know people have been able to do it. And the biggest thing there is what it'll allow you to export as, and how
Steve?
it'll deal with things like text. I'm not sure how it does with that, but
Steve, I got a question.
sure.
Did I just hear you say that you have a laser? You have a vinyl cutter? You have a CNC? And I also happen to know that you have a 3D printer. Is
Mhm.
that correct?
Yeah.
And I'm the gear junkie in this? I mean...
These are tools.
It's still gear, dude. It's still gear.
I like my robots.
I do too. I just don't have the room for them. One of these days. Yeah, now I will say this. Well, I tried to. No, it's not a bad thing, Jack, but y'all got to understand, before the live started, Steve was giving me a hard time because I just bought some new, I got me a cool little soundboard and switcher and all that set up now. And he was making fun of me, calling me a gear junkie. So I was just pointing out that it's kind of the pot calling the kettle black.
I mean, the whole crux of it here is you could completely call me out because you bought one after I got one.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, that's right. You do have one. You've been using one. Man, you made fun of me for it. Man, what a hypocrite on that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it to you just for that, Steve. Just for being that way. All
right. I deserve that. But yeah, Jim. It's funny because there is a makerspace that opened up in town, and I do go and support some of their events and whatnot. But I can't bring myself to join them because I kind of have all the same or better gear in my own shop. So, I'd join if it wasn't quite as expensive, just to have that kind of creative group to hang around with, because that can
What
be
is?
a really good,
Okay,
what? You're confused.
is this like the hardware store that sells pizza? Is this a store
No,
that just like
no,
has
no,
random
no.
machines that you can come in and use?
Have you not heard of what a makerspace is?
We don't have those here, guys. We
Okay,
have
well,
we have
so
ag shops at the schools.
so a makerspace can mean a lot of different things, depending on who's kind of running them and such. But they're yes, it's kind of like joining a fitness club, but you're using their creation tools. You go in,
Oh,
you
okay.
get trained on the various machines, or you take their intro class to it, and then you can come in and use it, and have access to them. Sometimes have access to a little bit of storage. Sometimes they have on-site supplies you can buy, or they get donations and such. So we do have one in
Hmm.
town, and I've supported it quite a bit. But the cost is a bit much for me just to join to go hang out with like-minded people. So I go to a lot of their public events and such, but I'm not an actual member there. Now I would
Hmm.
love this is kind of like my dream pre-retirement gig is I would love to run one for whenever I hit that age where I can no longer where I no longer have to do IT, and I don't have to support 3 kids and all that. If someone was to come and tell
Well,
me they're going to pay me a living wage to operate a makerspace, I'd be all over that. But
well, coincidentally, that's kinda I didn't even know those things existed, but that's kinda when I get my, time in and get to retire here within the next 5 years, I had actually discussed with a couple of my buddies that, I wanna do, like, basically because there's nowhere in Alabama that I could drive to today and go look at different machines and see what different machines can do. The best thing we've got is YouTube, and so I've actually considered, starting out a little shop like that but there was this thing that we had talked about too of where you would allow people to come in and kind of like intern for a day or whatever and learn the machines and then, hopefully be able to sell the machines, maintenance them, fix them, do parts, that kind of thing. But that was
yeah.
kind of one of my dreams of after retirement, having an actual clack shack like retail position. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I know some of the laser manufacturers actually support that. They have programs they call like open garages or open shops or whatever that they know the person has some of their equipment, and they've agreed to allow people to set up times to come over and kind of get that intro to it, try it out. And I'm sure
Hmm.
there's some sort of either commission or some sort of kickback for doing that. I did that. Actually, a good friend of mine kind of started up Stepcraft US years ago, and he I helped him out with some trade shows and such, and they actually sent me out a machine, and that's what I did a few times. Is people that were in this area were interested in a Stepcraft machine, they'd come over to my shop, and I'd kind of show them what it was all about and such. So
Yeah, Jim, that's one of the things I guess that I forget about because where I'm at, apartments. I mean, we have a few apartment complexes, but it's not like that's not where most people live. So I kind of overlook the fact that a lot of people don't have the room to do this. Don't have the space to build. I know a lot of guys do it in their garage, but yeah, there is a segment of society that doesn't even have a garage. So it's some one of those things that sometimes I overlook because it's just, this is what I'm used to. Most of my friends and family either have enough room or have a shed or an extra bedroom or something like that. So, but yeah, I guess in a really city environment, that would be a really cool thing to have for those folks that didn't have room to house the machines and stuff.
yeah, and sometimes they're tied in with trade schools or high schools, and even a lot of universities have them for their students, where they have various tools like that that they can come in, and so I think they're great. I want to see more of them. It makes things more accessible to people.
Yeah, see, there's your fellow basement dweller right there, Steve. Steve stays in his basement a lot. He's not tonight,
No,
but yeah, I got a buddy of mine. Klein. He's starting to help me out, and I just took a massive order and sent to him. But he just went in his garage or his basement and cleared out like 12 foot by 6 foot area, and he's got those machines set up, and he's turning out some work up there. So you know, I I didn't have this until a couple years ago when I built this. I took my little pole barn and turned it into a shop. So I feel you on not having a place to go. I wish I had a basement during the wintertime, or the hot summer, but I don't. And then what's his name? Michael says he's in an 8x10. Hey,
Yeah,
that's only about twice what I got.
I,
So.
I've seen some very creative shops, and some people make some awesome things out of them. You know, and so that's one of the nice things. When people talk about, well, you've mentioned this too. You can't run a business on a diode laser. I'm like, well, it's it's got some challenges to it, but it also has some flexibility, and it's got a lot less overhead. I mean, you've got them hanging on your wall behind you. You can just pull them off the wall and set them down. My
Oh
60
yeah.
watt CO2, which is sitting right next to me here as a shelf holding up other diode lasers right now, but that's beside the point. Uh, it it's got about a 17-inch deep cutting area, so that's about your typical diode laser. Now it's a little bit wider because it's about 27, but that's not a whole lot more area that we have with our diodes. But it is taking up a. It came in a crate and had a lift gate delivery. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and that's like, and I'll use my buddy Klein for example. He's in the corner of his basement. Okay, he's got like very small workspace. Uh, he has he has volunteered to keep the Ortur with the 20-watt head. He's got another 10-watt machine that's mine, and he's got a 5.5-watt machine that's mine. He's got those guys set up in there, and he can have jobs running on all three machines, and that's what I do. Like to yesterday, y'all. I don't know how many of you saw the cutting boards that I did, but I had two. I had both my enclosed machines turning out cutting boards while I was helping my brother build a kennel topper that he had ordered for somebody's dog kennel. So that's how people say you can't make run a business. You can. Now you're not going to run a multi-million-dollar business, off of a diode laser. But now if you had 50 of them, you might. But it's all a matter of overhead versus revenue. If you don't spend that much money, if you bring in more than you're spending, you're making money. And the more machines I have, the more I can turn out because I've got it set up now to where I have air assist, USB, and everything here on this table as well. I've got portable enclosures. Just got a new one in from ASMR. Those portable enclosures, in 10 minutes, I can throw up another 20-watt machine and have it going. And I can have three machines turning out $30 pieces of product every 22 to 23 minutes. So that's 3 times 30. That's $90 every 20 minutes that I can turn out in product. So you multiply that times 3. I mean, that's good money. But now it does take the room. It does take having those machines set up and the ability to run them all. But that's how I've been doing it. I started out with one machine, which was a 10 watt. Then I went to the 10 and a 20. And now I've actually got the capability of running 3 20-watt machines and a 40-watt CO2 all at the same time, turning out materials. And, even if it's not making but $10 per burn, if it's 15 minutes a burn, that's $40 every 15 minutes I can turn out in product. So it's all about using your imagination, taking the tools that you have and putting them to work. And the more money I make with them, I reinvest better equipment, better air assist, bigger machines. Of course, me and you are fortunate on that aspect. I do get a few machines that I don't have to buy, but then sometimes they send me a machine and I had to upgrade it. But yeah, don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something.
yeah,
Just
no,
prove them wrong.
and I would say, the more creative you are, the more unique your items, the more you're going to be able to charge from, and then the less volume you have to do. A CO2 laser is great at volume, clear acrylic, and glass. Other than that, yes, the diodes are slower, but if you're doing quality work and you're doing very custom work that the market isn't flooded on, well, you can kind of name your price, and it doesn't matter if you're only able to make 1 or 2 an hour. If you're charging enough for them and you're making money and you're okay with what you're getting paid, um, then that's a win. So,
Oh yeah. Well,
and then yeah,
like
you reinvest it. I mean, yeah, I bought my original laser. I bought my original CNC. I bought my first two large CNC machines, and um, through various forms of creating stuff and selling things, I've outfitted and upgraded pretty much all the other equipment in my shop based off of that income. So,
yeah.
you know, it's a little creativity and a little hard work, and sometimes you just strike that right product or that right design, and people go all over it. So,
That's like these guys. I got a stack of 25 of those. I just ordered 48 more of these cutting boards because I've still got probably another 8 or 10 that I've got to do. Uh, but anybody with a laser, with a diode laser setup, can cut these. You don't have to have a wood shop. I mean, you can order these on Amazon. That's where I'm getting these from, and it's cheaper, a lot less trouble, and that's what the customer wanted was bamboo. So you just got to find that market and get your foot in the door and go from it. There. It's just the way it works. Uh, let's see, who was it up here? Somebody was saying, somebody was asking if it was possible. But yeah, Jack, it is possible. But now you do have to learn to market and advertise a little bit in your community to be able to do it, or do like my buddy Klein did and partner with somebody that's got more work
but
than they can do.
I think the key word that he's using there though is hobby.
Yeah,
There's a huge difference between doing this as a hobby and doing this as a business. Because yeah, when you're doing it as a business, you have to be very mindful of what are you spending, and do you have enough work coming in, or are you able to spend enough time on it? But then the problem is you're also competing with the guys that do it as a hobby, and they're just like, yeah, I'd like my materials cost back so I can play some more. I've seen that going to some of these craft
yeah.
fairs and maker fairs where I I like to support the artists doing it, and sometimes you go, wow, that's pretty expensive ceramic mug, but I can appreciate the time and effort I buy it, I'll buy it. And then I go to the guy that's been turning bowls, and I go, he's like, hey, if you buy three of it, I'll sell you like three for $40. I'm like, how are you? You that's barely covering your materials. And he's like, yeah, I'm retired. I just enjoy it. It'll let me buy some more material. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and
I
that's
look
the
at
you
it and
gotta
go,
decide.
I
Yeah,
was just saying, then I look at it and go, well, I can't compete with that.
yeah. Well, you gotta
So
look
then
at
I
it
got to find
too.
something else to do. But
Yeah, like these guys right here. These guys, like I said, the stove covers. They order the stove covers from me, and they order like 3 to 5 a week. And I've been able to keep up with that for a year. And so, yeah, they could probably go get somebody else to do them a little cheaper, maybe save $5. But they know for the past year that if they order from me, I'm going to have it done. I'm going to get it to them, and if there's any problems, I'll make it good. So that's reputation will get you a long way too. Yeah.
and that's one thing. There's two things that I see some people really underestimate is the cost of shipping, and factoring in that not only are you supposed to be paying your income tax on it, but you're paying self-employment income tax. So right away you're probably talking 30% off your gross is there's income tax and self-employment tax. But then people talk about shipping. Well, it's not just and it's not cheap to ship. If it's not like 3 ounces and fits in a padded envelope, and then it's still about $4. You're talking $8 or $10 in postage just to send something. That doesn't count the cost of your packing materials. I can't tell you how much I've gone through in brown paper, in bubble wrap or air pocket things, even just packing tape, and the boxes themselves. You can easily double the cost of shipping just in the supplies that it takes to package it up, put labels on it, and such. So, um, yeah, all those little things, add into it, and when you thought you were making X amount, pretty soon you're like, well, I'm doing the work for free. I'm covering my materials, and the Postal Service and Uncle Sam and everybody else is making a profit.
Oh yeah. Now I will say this: you got to track your expenses, and you got to get somebody to do your taxes and put your expenses against your revenue, or you'll hate it. Oh, I spend most of my profits for tools and stuff. That's why I'm constantly upgrading things because I don't want to pay taxes on the money. And I don't know how long that's going to work, but it worked pretty well for the first year. But that's one word of advice is I'll say get good bookkeeping paperwork. I use QuickBooks. Make sure you get good software for keeping up with your expenses because your expenses at the end of the year will be your savior. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, but you like you say, you got to be organized with it. Even your when you want to claim mileage, there's a lot of things you need to track outside of that to make sure that you can claim the appropriate mileage. But if you're having to run to the post office or UPS, all those trips add up, and that you're paying for it, and that definitely can help that bottom line when it comes to tax time. So,
I was trying to go through these comments and see if I missed anything. But yeah, Penny, I agree. Quality is better than quantity. But now you have to balance. You have to balance. How much you charge with your market too, and that's what a lot of people ask me. How much should I charge for this? And guys, I'm not trying to be rude when I tell you you're gonna have to check your market, but something that here would sell for $10 in LA would sell for much more. In New York would sell for much more. Overseas, let's not even get into that. That's really complicated. But a lot of people are like, "Hey, how much should I charge for this?" Well, if you're the only person in a town of 2 million that does what you do, you're going to be able to charge a lot more than if you're, one of 50 in a town of 2,000. So that's kind of where you got to figure out, what is the market, what is the demand, and how much competition do you have? All those things affect how much you can charge. But yeah, Jack, I outgrew the spreadsheet guy. I mean, it gets ridiculous. Keeping up with those receipts, and that works for a while until things get a little bigger. Yeah, Penny says she just started on hers. She's like me and you, Steve. Just doesn't seem she likes taxes.
I just I just paid mine last Friday, so
Yeah.
it's nice that
Well,
they allow
Kent,
you. It's nice that you can submit them and then pick your date that you want to pay. So, well, I'm keeping that a little bit longer.
did you ask him if he could finance that? Stretch it out over 20 years?
No, that was my dentist. I asked them if I could finance this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, a lot of times what I find in my area is that people do buy a lot of stuff off of Etsy. And a lot of times they come to me, they'll just take a screenshot of something they saw on Etsy and be like, "Hey, I want something similar to this. How much would it cost me?" And if they're already thinking at buying it off of Etsy, then chances are whatever they sent you, they're willing to pay Etsy prices. So they save the shipping if nothing else. So Etsy's a good gauge as far as if you see something that's selling really well. It's a good gauge about what on a national level things would bring. But sometimes you can get more. Sometimes you might not get as much. Like I said, it depends on the geography and the
And
market where you are.
and I know it's really hard, especially when you're just starting out and you're trying to get, any sale seems like a big win. But if a person's going to come to you with something like that and say, "Hey, I saw this here. Well, what can you do it for?" And if they're trying to talk you down a lot from that, that is not the customer you want. They're not going to do you any good or any favors. You want the customers that recognize something is unique, recognize that you are putting your time into it and such. Uh, they're the customers you want because they're going to pay you what you're worth. They're not going to be, it's the whole I want fine furniture at IKEA prices. You don't want those people. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, Etsy is it's a good place to get ideas. And Ron's here saying pay more in fees than you make in profit. If that's the case, it's kind of the wrong. You're probably in the wrong market. It's probably saturated. My feelings on Etsy are if you're doing what everybody else is doing, yeah, it's not going to be worth it. But if you've got something unique, your own spin on it, that you're not competing with a lot of people, then Etsy makes it really easy. Sure, you can set up your own website and you can sell through that, but you have to set up the website. You need to make sure it's got an SSL cert. You need to make sure it's got e-commerce set up. Then you got to worry about tax rates, and then you got to worry about submitting taxes. Etsy charges a fee. It's a convenience fee. And I've run e-commerce sites before. I don't mind paying Etsy to do all that stuff for me as long as I'm not competing, with everybody else for the same thing. So I think if you pick your market, whether it is something unique you do or just some completely new thing that no one else is offering, it really makes it easy. And I find that their fees were worth it at that point. But you got to gauge that against what the item is and what you can make it on. So
Yeah, I agree with you, Steve. Etsy. Now, I will say this: when you first start an Etsy account, they opt you into some added advertisement that you may or may not want. That added advertisement is, in my opinion, a little expensive. But I opted out of the advertisement. Now, by default, they're going to sell it to you, but you can go in and opt out of it. I typically only do my digital files on Etsy, but I would rather use Etsy. Like Steve said, I do have a website, and but I don't want to have a payment method set up. I don't want to have to deal with sales tax submissions to, every city in the United States, because that's something that as you grow your business, you've got to consider is when you make a sale, you're collecting sales tax. And when you collect that sales tax, you got to set up an account to be able to send it to that state and pay it. Etsy does that for you. So it's hard enough for me to remember every month before the 10th of the month to submit my sales tax to the state of Alabama, the Chilton County, and the city of Clanton, because I have to submit sales tax to all three of those places before the 10th. Because if I don't, I get hit with a $50 charge from the city, $50 charge from the state, and a $50 charge from the county on top of what I owed, which usually isn't but $10 or $15. So those are things that I don't have to think about with Etsy, because if I had to sit down and submit sales tax to 76 different cities around the country, it would take me an entire day. So I gladly pay Etsy to take care of that for me. But like I said, that's just things that you have to consider. But yeah, I saw, who was it? Jack. I saw you saw that was pretty cool. He said he sold his saw for $200, and that's like Steve said. You had an original product that not a lot of them out there, and make another one like it, put it back on there. You find something that works, grab it by the horns and go with it.
it's the same thing when people complain about, especially in my RC hobby, people do a lot of used selling and they'll ship items around. But then people complain like, oh, well, you can use PayPal, but I want you to pay the 3% fee or whatever. And that was always a big turnoff to me. And I'm just like, factor it into your price. Factor the Etsy fees into your price. And then if you do a local sale and they pay the same thing, you have an automatic like, hey, I tell you what, I'll give you a 10% discount. And then they're happy and you're still making the same, or if not more, across the board. It's just whether, no matter what you do, whatever service you use, Square or Zettle or any of those, card processors, you're paying them a fee. Factor that into your fee. If someone pays you cash, it's a bonus, or you can give them a discount. But yeah, it's definitely easy. The easy way to do it is through these services like that. So, but I guess I'm a lot luckier. I only have to do it quarterly, and the state collects the state, the city, and any other. I just do one, and they'll send me a national.
I have a portal.
They take a lot longer. Yeah, we have a web portal. We could do it, but you can be late by a bit, as long as you don't do it all the time. They just send you an email and then a letter saying, "Hey, buddy, pay up." So,
yeah. Well, like I said, mine is not. And somebody saying it was 100K in sales.
Every state is different.
In Alabama, if you sell something, you're supposed to pay taxes on it. Yeah. And the thing about it is, guys, is when you're selling on Etsy and you're invoicing customers and they're giving you a 1099 at the end of the year, if you don't report that, there's a paper trail. It's not like somebody walks into the shack, because I am not saying that this has ever happened, but it's not like anybody just walked into the shack and is like, hey, I want this built. And I'm like, well, that'll be $300 and there's no tax. And they paid me cash. Not that that's ever happened, but, some of the stuff that I do with some of the bigger companies, I have to generate an invoice, then they submit payment through check. So there's no denying that. And here comes the rain again, guys.
Yeah. So, so yeah, you do need to be careful when you're selling in other states because, quite frankly, much like Clack said, 95% of my sales are actually online out of state. Each state has different laws as to what their threshold is for requiring you to collect taxes. Some of them it's a threshold of a certain number of sales or certain dollar amount. Some of them are if you make one sale, you are required by their law to collect and remit that sales tax. So that's where the frustration can get in when you're starting to do things online and selling um, to other states, and then selling physical goods to European countries can complicate things even more because certain countries, I think it's France, requires the shipping company to have a plan for paying for or reclaiming any shipping materials that are non-recyclable, and you have to have that paperwork with it. So it's getting more and more complicated all the time between taxes and import fees and other miscellaneous regulations. Not to mention the I should know this because I'm in IT. The data privacy laws of the European Union. If you have a website and you're collecting customer information, you need to make sure you comply with that, or you can be in trouble with European law. So there's a whole lot of complexity to running your own site, and that's where you got to take an honest look at some of these sites that'll do it for you, because then those percentages start actually adding up to a lot of time and cost that you kind of go, well, maybe it's worth it. So.
I'm trying to mute my mic. It's coming another downpour. Somebody mentioned earlier I need to build an ark. I may need to start working on that burn pile.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I try to stick with local. And guys, if you're not looking to try to just like make thousands of dollars a month, Facebook's a great place to start locally. Most of your communities will have like little sale groups, or a lot of your go to your neighborhood or your community, find the arts council there, and there's usually people that can kind of point you in the right directions as far as being able to sell stuff. That's what I do in town. Like I said, I've got customers like May, which just ordered a bunch of stuff from me, and some other businesses like Clayton with stove covers and stuff. But you can get out, face to face and do a lot of this stuff, and you don't have to have Etsy, or you don't have to have other online stuff. But it does require you to get out of your house and like go knock on doors and take free samples to people. I give away a lot of stuff. Like I'll go into a restaurant and be like, hey, here's some cork coasters with your logo on them, or here's a sign that says, your Wi-Fi password or whatever, and just give them something just to kind of plant that seed. So when they want to come back and they're like, well, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? We'd like one of those. So it's all about marketing. And some people are better at marketing than others. Like I said, it does cause you to have to kind of be face-to-face interaction, and some people aren't as good at that as others. But that's when you find somebody else to do your marketing for you.
Yeah. So, and that's one thing to consider if you do like a craft fair. Sometimes it's sometimes if you don't do well that day, it can be depressing because you're like, I spent all this time, I spent all this money on everything, and I only made enough to break even. Well, if you did it right and you got out there and talked to people and sold yourself just as much as you were trying to sell your product, because that's a lot of it, is just selling yourself as the craftsperson. It's the after sales that hopefully come from that. Maybe there was a realtor that stopped by your booth and saw that customized cutting board, or there is that shop owner that thought, hey, it would be really cool to have some of these customized in my shop, or the person who said, hey, I got a wedding coming up, can you make all these things? Sometimes it's the after event sales that you have to kind of keep in mind, that's the event's about advertising. If I sell some things that day, great, but hopefully that people are taking notice and will be coming back to you afterwards with that as well. So that's just one thing I recommend with people, is not to get too discouraged after your first first run or two, you're trying to figure out how it works for you. You got to figure out, your own selling style, but also there's a lot of kind of after the event sales that happen because you were there. People noticed you. So you definitely want to have things that they'll notice. You want to be outgoing, not aggressive, but you want to greet people, talk with them, get them engaged with you, and they're more likely going to like your stuff. And then give them something that they'll actually enjoy. Business cards get thrown out. They're good to have, but that'll get thrown out. But if you can give them something useful that they might hold on to, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, Clack Shack. I remember I saw that guy. I'm gonna go hit him up."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to get out of your shell a little bit. Don't be creepy about it, but talk to people and kind of pull them in. Because once they kind of see what you can do and see who you are, that definitely helps. So.
Yeah, and like I said, talking about Etsy, there's a lot of people. I've got a lot of jobs because people order stuff on Etsy, and they had an event that they wanted to present it at, and then like 2 days before the event, they still haven't gotten their product, and so they come to me and they're like, "Hey, look, I know it's short notice, but could you please?" And I'll go ahead and knock those jobs out, and I'll just tell them, "Hey, as long as I can use it on Facebook, as long as you'll tag me in a post to help promote my business." And I've gotten a lot of work off of that because, when that person sees somebody else having a wedding or having an anniversary celebration or whatever, they're like, "Well, hey, go talk to this guy. He helped me out." And so that's how I get a lot of my hand to hand money around here is from just people talking about it. I got 2 or 3 big weddings that I did a whole bunch of stuff for, and then they tell other people. But yeah, Jason's right. You got to be social. You can't be anti-social. But yeah, Chris Gallagher said that he's found that he gets more in return on freebies as well. And like I said, that was starting out. Oh, did I just cancel one? Starting out, that was the big thing for me is I just go around giving stuff away because my first 2 craft events that I was at, I think it cost me like $25 to $30 to go, just to be there, because I didn't make enough money. But then as time goes, like I said, a month later, I get a phone call and it's like, "Hey, I saw you at this event and we talked about this. Can I make an order?" And so I'm wound up making my money back in the long run. So.
Yeah. I find that's true so often, especially for people just if it's the first time at an event or their first time doing any event. The first one is just usually it's your tuition. You're paying money to learn. So.
Yeah. Jason, I don't know how to tell everybody about that. I would put your comment up, but I don't want to get that. I think it back to your bosses. Jason said he hands out 2 business cards while he's at work.
But yeah, I mean, Facebook Marketplace can go well to get a few sales going, especially if you have like a neighborhood group, and do be creative with something that's local. Take your area code, take your city, take your county, whatever it is. Make some keychains or something off that. Just some of those smaller, easy, inexpensive items that you can either sell cheap or give away, and people will buy that up. There's every person kind of has their discretionary fund, their limit of like they'll just spend it. They don't care, $5, $10, $20. And if you can have things in that range, that's something that they'll take with them or they can give away. That helps them come back and think new. So.
Yes, sir. Look at there. Look. Hey, check it out.
You and your toys.
All right. Hey, this is a point where if you hadn't, guys, go hit that subscribe button because, me and Steve, just like we're talking about trying to build your business, we're trying to build up our following here. I am getting remarkably close to 10,000, which I'm going to be honest with you. A year ago, this was like, if you said, "Hey, you're going to have a YouTube channel," I'd been like, no way. So I really want to get to that before I've been at this a year. I think that's great. I'm trying to figure out, I want to do something interesting for my my 10K, but I can't figure out what to do yet. But yeah, I figured you'd like that little subscribe button there, Steve. Like right here. Hey, gear junkie, man, gear junkie.
Yeah. So first part of Troublemakers was he's getting a lot of requests to make this and that. It requires a lot of design time, and that is definitely something not to. You can spend a lot of your time designing something for little money. In my I get that a lot with some of my model airplane friends. They know I have a laser, and they're like, "Oh, hey, do you think you could cut out these parts for me?" Well, I always ask them, like, well, do you have a laser ready file? If that's the case, sure, because it's probably going to take me 5-10 minutes to set up. But if I have to open up CAD and start redrawing parts, or in this case, you're full up designing logos and items for them, and you got to charge for that time, and you got to figure it out. And again, if they're not willing to pay for that, they're not the customer you want. Have that honest conversation with them. Just say, hey, this is my time. I got to pay taxes on this. I got to do this. And unless you really like them that much and want to give it away, but otherwise they're not a customer. They're not going to be doing anything for you if they don't appreciate what you're doing for them. So,
yeah, you're going to get that a lot, especially people. I mean, there are people out there that think you should just like do all this work and not get paid. But yeah, you got to kind of stand your ground on that, so to speak, to make sure that you're getting what you feel your time is worth.
And here's the thing with like Mark says, he's retired. It's not necessarily we're selling, just enjoys giving away to friends, family, church. And here's my thing on that, especially if it's friends or family. I got into this with computer support, because they knew well, you're a computer guy, you're in IT. Do you think you can fix my computer? And I'll either say yes or no, but I'll tell them I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it for free, because then I can walk away when I need to. The minute there's money involved, they expect you're doing the full job for, no matter if that was $5 or $500. And so I learned long ago that it was better for me to just consider it charity to whoever, so that I can just say, hey, you know what? I'm done. I'm sorry. You're going to need to reach out to someone else, rather than there being money involved and them expecting you to fix everything that they find wrong with it. So, it's a tough thing. I mean, pricing thing, valuing your time is important as well. So definitely keep that in mind. And yeah, I had friends. He sent me one of these Facebook ads or an Etsy ad. He was getting married and said, hey, do you think you could do this for me? I was like, yeah, I could do that for you. He's like, well, just let me know what you'll charge me for it. I mean, he was happy to pay me whatever it was worth. And I just sent it to him, and he's like, well, what do I owe you? I said, it's my wedding present to you. Enjoy the day, have fun, and I was happy with that. It was it was a nice little brain exercise for me to figure out how it was set up and how I'd make it. And he was happy, but
yeah, sometimes that's true, Chris. Folks tell me all the time, if you can't keep them in stock, you're not charging enough, and if you're not selling them, you're charging too much. That's how you evaluate the market.
Yep.
And there have been times that I have been a victim of my own pricing, and I put something out and was like, hey guys, I got these, I'm making them, this is what they cost. And I got slammed. And then I realized, you know what, I kind of underpriced that just a little bit. So I had to fulfill all the orders, because I'd advertised it. And then afterwards, I just kind of took that off the lineup for a little while and then reintroduced it a little higher, so that I could kind of govern how many of them I had to do, because that is true.
Yeah, Ron, that's a good point. It's always easier to lower your prices than raise them. And so when I would do something for free for someone, it's because either it's generally because I know them and I have some sort of relationship, friendship, family, something, and I just don't want to get into that awkward money situation with them. Other people, yeah, I will tell them the ridiculous price, and if they still want me to do it, then I'm happy to do it because it's a ridiculous price. Everyone else, you know, it's like, what do you charge for this? If it's straightforward, here's my price. But yeah, if it's people that you don't necessarily want to work with, just give them that surely they won't pay this much for it. And if they say yes, get half of it up front. Get half of it up
That'll
front.
backfire. That'll backfire. I'm telling you right now, that will backfire. I had a tabletop that a guy wanted one time, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. So I just like come up with this astronomical number. I'm like, you know what? I'll do it, but because of this, you know, if it was 2-inch thick material, I'm like, because of this, it's going to cost you this much money. And he's like, oh, you need it all now, or you want me to just pay you half now and half when I pick it up, or what? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so I had to do it, you know. And I would have rather taken a beating than do that job.
Well,
but I honestly thought I had outpriced it. But I thought I had. I just did. But I underestimated the guy's wallet. Okay.
Well, but there again, you have to make it to where you would be overjoyed to do it for this price. That's what I mean by ridiculous price. You know, like.
Well, I just didn't want to do it at all. There was no. I mean, there's not enough zeros. You know what I mean?
It was one of those jobs that I just didn't want to do. For $50,000, he says yes. You're like, all right, I guess I'm doing this.
Oh well, yeah, I guess that would probably have been. I thought I had reached the threshold of what it would charge. I just didn't want to be. I didn't want to be crazy with it. But
there are some people that they don't mind throwing their money around when they want someone to do something. So you better make sure it's going to be worth your while too.
I'm not sure I follow this. Trouble. What did he say his name was a while ago? I'm terrible with names. Sorry, Eric. I'm not sure if he's saying that we're cool or if we were cool and now we're not cool. I'm not sure, but appreciate you, Eric. But yeah, and like I said, people do take for granted.
All right, here's an actual laser question. Is there a way to change the framing speed? So in Lightburn, yes. What you're looking for is on your move tab or window. And if you don't see that, you go up to your window and you go down to make sure the check mark's next to move. There's going to be a speed option right in kind of in the middle right. And that you can adjust. If it's too slow, you can bump it up. Just make sure it's within your machine's operating speeds to change that.
Yeah. All right, I got to do it, Steve. You can call me a junkie, whatever, but I got to do it. See this comment? I've been saving that for Chris or Brian for when he starts complimenting your hair. Yeah, I've been saving it for Brian because I knew Brian was going to give me a chance to use it. He didn't. So.
Well, I think you need to switch it out for one that's just a bunch of people sitting, booing someone on stage. A bad comedian.
well, I even put you one in here for the sciencey stuff, like when you knock it out the park. I got you one in here, guys. There you go. I have been playing with this thing, trying to make sure I had everything in there that I needed. But I see a couple of things I need to add to it.
Well, here's this one could go down so many rabbit holes. Chris has a Xtool D120 watt Pro, likes it a lot, and people are using different diodes. You've kind of switched out from your Xtool being your primary one. But that could be other factors. So here's my take on it. It depends on if they. What I would look at is are there things that your Xtool isn't doing for you or frustrating for you? And if so, that might be a good reason to look at a different brand that might not have that issue or might have that feature or whatever. However, on the flip side, if you're really happy with how it works, how it works, you're used to its software and used to its, it's even just the form function, all the lasers I've tested, I don't think two of them have the same physical dimensions. So it's nice to have things that are the same, that can back up each other, that you don't necessarily need to maybe, well, this one runs at this speed versus that one runs at that speed. Having two similar ones can be a benefit that way. So if you're happy with your Xtool D1 Pro 20 watt and you just need a second one, I would still recommend that. It's a great machine. It works very well. It's nice and low. The one thing I like about the Xtool machines is they're kind of they're a I'll call it a low profile. They don't have a lot of stuff sticking up the top or the sides. But there are also definitely some features. If you need a little bit extra space, the Aether is nice. You get an extra 50 millimeters or so that can make or break on certain designs. The Ortura LaserMaster 3 is really fast. They've got that thing moving around a lot. But right now they're also stuck at 10 watt. They'll hopefully come out with ones, but they're kind of behind on others. So there's a number of things to look at, but I wouldn't say just because other people are using different machines that it's a reason to jump on what you're used to and comfortable with.
No, I had been looking at getting another machine, and like Steve said, the second stage of my laser engraving, the D1 Pro 20 watt was my go-to. All right, and then as I started doing more stuff and I started getting out into the public and people started ordering things, I found myself turning down a lot of jobs because they were too big to just sit over in the machine. I could still do them, but I had to charge a little more because I had to take my machine out of the enclosure. I had to bring it over to the table, put the tent enclosure on it and burn them that way. So when I saw the Aether and I saw that it was a little bigger, just the 20 watt was actually a pretty good bit bigger than the Xtool. I got to doing some math and I'm like, okay, that's going to make it to where a lot of these jobs that I've turned down, I could actually just set them over in there. And then I got to looking at, okay, if I put the extension on it, now we've really changed the landscape of what is possible. And and the guys that watch my channel a lot know that I make a lot of my cash off of those stove covers. And I needed a way that I could just open a machine, set a stove cover in there, shut the door, and hit go. And the only way to do that was with the Aether, because the stove covers are 30 and a half inches wide and they're 22 and a half inches tall. Well, that will not fit inside an Xtool. So that's why I opted to go ahead and go with the Aether. And that's why it's my primary machine now, is because I can take a stove cover, set it over in there. I've got it set to where there's a jig built into my enclosure. It sits in there perfect. I open up the file, hit burn, and it burns it. It burns it right every time. It's enclosed. There's not a lot of setup, and it has made my workflow. It took my stove cover builds from me taking probably 2 hours per stove cover to now I can have one almost completely done in an hour, because I don't have that extra setup time. And that's not a lot, but when you figure I do, 10 or 12 of those a month, that's 10 or 12 hours a month that I'm saving that I can be doing something else and making more money. So you have to look at the machine that you're wanting to get into and just make sure. There may be a machine that's similar, but has something about it that makes your work easier or saves you time and makes you a little more money. So like Steve said, no two people's needs are the same. Steve's, what he uses his machines for is different than what I use mine for. And so therefore, the way our machines are set up is going to be different. So that's my soapbox, 2 cents on that. Okay, wait a minute. Here's somebody saying they didn't get answered.
Yeah, no, I saw that one earlier, but I have not.
Can I tell y'all a rumor and nobody hold me to it? The rumor is that in April, there's going to be one possibly sent to my address. It's a rumor. I can't confirm it, but it is a rumor. So in April, hopefully I'll be able to tell you whether or not the 35 is a decent machine. But I don't count on that until it happens. But that's what I've heard.
So I know this is often asked. I haven't confirmed it, but looking at the plugs on the 8er and knowing what the RA2 has for adapters, it should. Most of these steppers on these lasers are all very similar, and it comes down to the control board, having different ways of driving them and such. So you have to do a little bit of calibration when you get them. But yes, however, if you don't have one yet, there are other options out there that you may want to consider as well. As far as a chuck style rotary. 8er's got their own. Right now it's been bundled with their 35, but I believe they're going to be offering it separate soon. Just like that. Ortour's got theirs. Atom Stack has one coming out. There's very similar ones that are a chuck style rotary that won't necessarily limit you to the actual one.
Check this out. This is if I can do it one hand without both hands, without setting it down. This is what I like about this one. No little wrench required to spread the teeth or anything like that. It's got this nice little ring. So I haven't got to play with it yet. Like I said, I've been backed up on jobs that pay, so I haven't got to play with it yet.
So most of them will do that. However, I will say from experience, I often do use the little rods to tighten it up just because things slip. I like to make sure I get that chuck nice and tight.
Well, I put a tumbler in it and kind of played around with it, and it held it very secure. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm very anxious to use it, but just haven't had a chance yet.
All right, you're showing off a rotary.
See you, Mark.
I get to show off a rotary.
What the heck is that? That's as big as a house.
It's the one from my CO2.
Oh, I was fixing to say that's as big as a house.
Yeah.
But there are a bunch of them out there. I haven't ever used a chuck, so I'm pretty sure the video that I do on this chuck is going to be exciting because I am not going to know what I'm doing. Brian, it's more of a friction nut. When you tighten it down, it snugs down to where you have to have both hands to break it loose. It's got, I guess it's just friction. That's the only thing I can say. But it's Steve is. Oh, hang on. I got this. Got you, Brian. That was just that noise in this thing was. When I put it on there, I was like, "This is Brian right here." I knew that was coming. I knew it. But yeah, the 8er's a good machine. The X-Tool's a good machine. Atom Stack's a good. I haven't really had a terrible machine yet. Now I've had some that were a little better than others, but being able to do stuff with them so far, I know me and Steve both had an issue with one particular machine, but luckily, I was nice to him and had sent him to fix before he ever got trying to use the machine, and I saved him all the headache I had to go through. So you did get that working, didn't you, Steve?
Yep.
Oh, what do you make of? Yeah, my thoughts exactly, Jim. I thought it was a lathe. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I could grab that too if you want.
Yep, there you go. I can't help it, man. I can't help it. I got all kinds of stuff over here.
Production quality just keeps going higher and higher every week.
Hey, it's man, it's gadgets. You're the one that showed me the thing, okay? Were you not? Were you not the one that said, "Hey, look what I've got. I've got one of these." Yeah. I just figured out how to work it. That's all.
Yeah, well, we all have regrets.
And I should have hit the wall. Here we go right here. That's a jump right there. From LE 400 to 35. Wow. Yeah, Jason was like, "Wow, I'm gonna have to adjust my power settings." But the Monport is, to me, it is a task specific machine. Uh, that's about all I know to say about it. Don't you? What do you think, Steve? You've got one.
Uh, yeah, the smaller the K40s, the small benchtop CO2s like that, that is definitely a kind of a task specific thing because of really the size limitations of it. That's the biggest issue there. Is yes, it's inexpensive for a CO2, but it's 8 by 12 really kind of limits you in the area. So if you're making small acrylic signs, working on things like that, perfect for that. It's inexpensive. It's a great way to do it. You don't need to buy. The next step up is really a bench top unit, but it's taking up a lot more space without gaining a lot of area over, say, one of these diodes. But yeah, definitely, if you're doing acrylic, CO2 is going to be your friend. And as long as you don't need anything bigger than that, that 500-ish price tag is pretty great for getting into it. So
Yeah, yeah, Jason. I use mine mostly for just acrylic. That's the only thing that the Monport, in my opinion, that's the only thing it does better than a 24-watt Acer or a 20-watt X tool is acrylic. That's it. But everybody keeps mentioning the 720, guys. I'm trying. You can ask Steve. We've discussed it. I do want to upgrade our stream to where it'll be in 1080. I'm planning on doing that, but I've got to get some air conditioning in the shack before it gets too hot here. So I'm kind of saving my money right now to put in an air conditioner. But as soon as I can get the money saved up, I do plan on upgrading to where we can do the 1080, and hopefully that'll help you guys, so y'all can see Steve in all his beauty. There.
So Jack is asking about OhmTech and their machines. I I don't have experience with their machines, but I've talked with them a number of times, and so they're what OhmTech does is they take your typical Chinese laser like I bought off of random seller on eBay years ago. They import very similar machines, but it's to their specs. And then they do a little more quality control on them. They're definitely branded themselves, but what you're really getting is more US based support out of that. And they've been around for a while, and they should be around for a while. That's the issue when you run into some of these eBay and Amazon resellers. They'll spin up a new store and sell 10,000 items of random anything, and then shut it down and create a new store. So having someone that is kind of consistent and history is definitely worth it. I wouldn't say they upcharge too much compared to the base price of these. There are definitely some others that you're going to get far superior support and superior machine for, but with that comes a bigger price tag. But I would say OhmTech is definitely someone I would be comfortable working with if you're looking at that.
Steve. All right. Here's one for you. Here's one for you.
Any craft shows or such coming up? So I actually was invited to one. So I work at a community and technical college here in town, and I work with a lot of the various departments. And I've gotten to know we actually have had some turnover in faculty, but we've got some new faculty in what they call our graphic communications department. And so they work a lot with your Adobe suite of products for actually manipulate graphics and such, but then they also learn about the application of that to products. So they're doing, advertising materials, carton production, screen printing, all that type of stuff. And they've actually talked to me about looking at the diode lasers as being able to do things like mugs and such. Well, as one of their fundraiser things to try to finance some of the new changing technology, they're actually hosting a maker fair, an artist fair on campus here in a few weeks. And so I did get invited to that one to try to set up for and whatnot, but I don't think I'm really in a position to do that. I don't have enough stuff set up that I think would be good for that market. But it's still thawing up here. People are hopefully, we also host a farmers market on campus. And then there are other sort of maker meetups. And so I'm looking into some of them, but I haven't committed to any yet. I looking at some other things that I got going on as far as some travel and some vacations. And so I don't want to commit to any events that I can't really put the time into making it worthwhile. So.
Well, I actually have a lot of them coming up in June. We have what is called our Peach Festival, which is peaches are big here. If any of y'all have ever traveled down I-65, which is the interstate that runs from Tennessee to Florida, it runs right through the middle of where I live. Peaches are big, have been for, as long as this place has been a county or whatever. So the month of June, we have all kind of festivities and so forth. At the end of June, they have this big concert that they call the Peach Jam, which Nico Moon is going to be at this year, and some other local talent. And they're having a local talent show that's going to culminate on the stage. But there's going to be, every weekend, there's going to be an event in downtown Clanton. Some of those events, I'm going to be there selling and working. Me and my buddy Klein, he's volunteered to help me and work the table with me. And then there may be some of the events where I'm there. I'm going to just do a video, talk to some of my friends. May and some others are going to be there. But the Peach Jam Festival that's in Clanton, and it's going to be at the end of June, I will have a booth set up there. I've had to work this thing for my job for the past 15 years. But I finally got where they're going to let me off so that I can set up a booth and maybe sell some stuff, meet some people. Just hang out with some of you guys if you were to show up there and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, Aaron, to answer your question, the Comgrow 20 watt, I don't have any complaints with the one that I have. Like I said, I know that you could buy the same machine and yours may be better than mine or vice versa, but I've had mine now for quite a while and I've did a lot of work with it. And I got a buddy that's still using it to do a lot of work for me. And it's still performing well because it is kind of a loaner machine. He does clean it a little more than probably is needed, but as long as you keep that thing clean, I never had any problems with it. Just clean the lens, keep the dust blowed out of it, and let that thing go. Because I've got my 20 watt Comgrow on a Tour LM3, and it's served me well. Should I?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of comments about college students being poor, and a lot of them are, and it's not cheap going to college. It's one of the things I appreciate working at a community and technical college where, we're not your traditional university. We don't have, athletics and all that. But we have a lot of technical programs that rely on our industry partners within our community and such. And so these are situations such as this artist fair to bring in some of those industry partners, bring in the community to kind of see what's going on in the college, support the students in their programs. And so hopefully we're selling to them more so than the students. But yeah, it's we do a number of these events around different areas, and generally it's more about bringing the community in than trying to sell something to the students. So we generally try to be careful that any events we bring on campus are to better the students and not make things worse for them. So
yeah. Now, somebody asked me, said they thought I was Southpaw. I'm not, guys. The Elgato software is messed up, and I can't flip the image. It's upside down, and so I'll fix it once I can get my Elgato app to open back up. I'm actually ambidextrous for the most part. I can't write as well with my left hand as I can with my right, but everything else, I can pretty much do everything else with my right or left?
So I'm not ambidextrous, but when I was a kid, I could switch hit. And so what that meant is they always wanted me to bat left-handed. And unfortunately that meant I kind of forgot how to bat right-handed. So when it comes to anything with a bat or a stick, so hockey or golf, uh, things like that, I always have to go left-handed. And that's usually my excuse because I get the rental bags at the golf course and I'm like, oh, these horrible rental clubs, they're impossible to play with. But yeah.
Well, I take that back, guys. I forgot there's a mirror image switch in this software, so I fixed it. My bad. It should be on the right arm now. This is left. But yeah, I've playing with too many toys, as Steve would say. Too many settings. Yeah, well, one thing about it is I'm usually pretty handy with software, but I just slap forgot that there was actually a switch in this Restream software that would do that for me and not have to do it on the camera itself. But yeah. But now, if I go to something else, it's probably going to, if I put something else up there, it's probably going to mess with it. No, light burn's right, so, okay, well, all right, maybe it'll
really,
save.
really narrow.
Yeah. But I don't have but the one. Well, I actually do have the two cameras, but I never added the other camera into the feed. So,
see, I'm just telling you, Clark, we got to get you a CNC router so you can make things like this. Nice little.
I can laser engrave that. I could laser engrave that.
You got to make the whole thing. Put your logo on the back.
I'll get one eventually. There's too many people trying to get me to get one. Eventually, I will probably have one.
Just think about that,
But it'll take a little while. It'll take me a while to get one. I gotta have the room first, Steve. I gotta have air conditioning before I get anything. Y'all guys have already got me to buy some stuff that I probably shouldn't have. Like this little gadget I'm playing with tonight. Peer pressure, Steve. Made me get it, which I do like it. I will say this: it's cool. So I can't completely fault you.
I've not been too impressed with too many of the cheaper desktop CNCs, but I've been really kind of keeping an eye on that Sane Smart 4040 Pro. I think that's kind of might be a nice sweet spot for someone wanting to just get into it. For about, they're about $500-$600 right now, and just slightly bigger than our typical diode.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't mind, but I've got to wait. Like I said, I got to have an air conditioner, Steve. You do not want me getting another kidney stone sweating too much. And that's exactly what's going to happen if I don't get an air conditioner, because it was pretty rough. It was pretty intense out there today and yesterday. And I can't right now, man.
So I see a question about the CNC I have. I'll rotate this just a little bit, and over in this corner over here. Here, I'll go stand by it for scale. This is the 150 woodworker. So it has the wider bar, which allows it to be 48 inches wide and about 32 inches deep. So that's the one that I just finished upgrading that last fall. I need to finish the spoil board to actually be able to use that full area. So I've got that one. And then over in the corner there, that box, that is a open build ox that I've run a ton through. I've actually already sold that one. That's going back to a friend. That one has about a 18 inch by 30, I think about 18 by 30 or 31 inch cutting area. And then there's another one over there. That's the Stepcraft D600 I've had for a while. That's just right now buried under a few other things. But I've also had my original one. I got actually it was 10 years ago this week, and it was just a kit built hobby CNC that I bought secondhand. But those are the ones that I've used the most. I had one other one that was more of a foam hot wire cutter and such, but those are the ones I
Hey,
have. The
Steve?
150 is great. What?
Won't you ship me that black walnut I saw propped up against the wall back there? That looked like a nice piece of wood.
Oh, which one?
I seen a nice piece of black walnut back there.
So yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. What are we doing with that?
So half of that's going to be a dining room table.
Oh, cool. I was just being nosy to see what all you had in your shop.
No, it's I do have a friend. Well, I have a couple friends up here, a few friends up here that have sawmills, and one of them actually does a lot of the big jobs for when they're clearing for state highways and such, or townships are having to have stuff done for new subdivisions and such. His family does a lot of that clearing out for stuff, and so he also runs a sawmill and takes the nicer wood and cuts it up and surfaces it on two sides, kiln dries it and everything, and every so
Cool.
often
Sounds like a stand-up guy.
yeah, he's a good guy, and he charges a fair price for it, and sometimes throws a really good deal on stuff. And so then I usually go and pick a few extra pieces just to have on hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim, I got a brother-in-law. Actually, I got two brother-in-laws that both do HVAC, and that's what both of them have advised me is to do a mini split. But I've got to get some insulation put in first behind those pine boards that you see. Which those pine boards were put up here before I got a kiln, and I didn't have anywhere to dry them, so I just screwed them to the wall, let them dry. And my plan was to go back and put batting strips over them, but that hadn't got to that yet. But there's no insulation behind that. So I've got to add insulation, which means it's either take all this stuff off the wall or take the tin off of the outside of the building and put the insulation in and put the tin back on. And that's the route I'm going. And I'm actually going to be working on that project this coming up week, getting all the insulation in. I've got to put something on the roof or on the ceiling, which is probably going to require me to go mill some lumber to be able to put some stuff up there. I've even thought about using some of my quarter-inch Luan for my ceiling just to save time because it's only like $20-something a sheet. And all I really need it to do is just hold the insulation up and, keep the noise down from the rain. So I may actually end up doing that to save myself a bunch of sawmilling. Oh, but yeah. Got to get some air conditioning.
So, Viking's asking about Lightburn and LaserMaster 3, if I'm reading that right. I know, and I even experienced this early on with my LaserMaster 3. There was a weird glitch with the Ortur not always holding its connection correctly, but I know they've done a couple firmware updates to address that. And so I think if you have the latest ones, it's less of an issue. That being said, I haven't had many problems since their original one, but I have seen that the Ortur seems to be a little more finicky on its connection with USB than others. So it's one where you definitely want to have a good cable. You want to turn off any power saving features and such. But there shouldn't be a problem. I've used it on USB 3.0 ports because I've used it on laptops that's all I have. A couple Windows tablet type ones that they just have either a USB-C that's converted to USB 3 or straight USB 3. So I don't believe it's inherently a problem, but they did have some early issues with some of their USB connectivity. But that being said, Ortur is also really good. They've got some great support. So when you do have issues, I've found that they've been very, very responsive in helping you out with them. So.
Yeah, well, one thing too, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I use a lot of hubs because I got way too much stuff going to these computers. And you can get a hub that has like one USB 3 port on it and then several USB 2s. You might want to try that if it is a problem. I've never noticed a problem with my LM3, but I'd have to look at my other machine and make sure it's got USB 3, but I'm pretty sure it does. I know the one I'm on right now, all it has is USB-C and USB 3, and it ain't got many of them. So I have to use a hub because I'm a gear junkie. See?
Hey. Jack, yeah, no, I hear you. Sometimes my shop gets a little cluttered as well. But if I walk into a shop and it's too perfect, I wonder if anything actually goes on in there. So,
well, Chris is talking about the expensive way to muffle the rain. It ain't all about the rain, guys. It's all about the sweat. It gets up to 130 degrees in here in the summertime. And I don't want to be in here as much as I'm in here now burning stuff and making things. It's not like when it was just a hobby to where I could be like, oh, you know what? It's too hot in the shop. I'm not going out there today. Now I have customers that expect me to deliver the products. And so I'm out here every afternoon, whether it's 100 or whether it's 20. So I'm trying to, it's more about my comfort than it is the noise. So.
speaking of neighbors, we actually have one of my neighbors in here. Jason did actually buy my original CNC machine. It's been a few years now ago, and hopefully that's still running for him and such. But yeah, I had Facebook and Google and all these others that like to store your photos. They like to bring up your memories and such. And so that popped up in my Facebook memories the other day. It was midweek where I had brought home that machine 10 years ago. And was messing around with that mostly for model airplane stuff at the time. But it was a good machine, and hopefully still is.
Somebody was asking about what type of hubs I use. The USB, the C one that I've got is a Vivitar. The rest of them, guys, that I've got stuck all over the shop are the cheapest thing I can find at Walmart or Amazon. Nothing special about them. Now, the one I use on my laptop for a card reader, it's the Vivitar. It's a decent brand, but nothing fancy.
So when it comes to third-party computer electronic stuff, Anchor is one of the brands that I trust a lot. So I think I've got one of theirs for both a USB 3 to like a 4-port, as well as a USB-C to a USB-A adapter. So, if you're looking on Amazon, those are ones I like to use. They've got some quality gear that doesn't cost too much, but generally, yeah, it's whatever's cheapest and doesn't have too many negative ratings.
See, hey, there it is, Steve. There's the setup. It's a mess over here, really. Told you. But yeah, I got USB. I've got one USB hub that's on my workbench here that I use. I got one USB 3 going across the room. And I split it down to 2s over here on the table. And it worked really well.
Yeah. Paint that will stick to rubber.
Ooh.
I should. I know I've looked at some of that for some. There are certain types of paints that'll stick to more rubberized surfaces. It's more of a flexible acrylic kind of thing, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now.
I have no clue. I've never painted on rubber. So. Is hockey pucks made of rubber?
Yeah, I think. I'm a bad Minnesotan, aren't I?
I was fixing to say you're disappointing me there, Steve. I thought you would have the answer to that.
No, I think they are. It's a vulcanized rubber, but as there again, are you talking official hockey pucks or decorative ones? Sometimes you got to be careful with what you get, but.
I can honestly say I've never seen a hockey puck.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what Wikipedia says the first hockey pucks were made out of.
No, we probably don't want to need to know.
Yeah, so it's solid vulcanized rubber is what they're supposed to be made out of.
Well, while you're looking up what hockey pucks are made out of, which kind of brings me to the whole name of the thing. So uh, now I'm concerned. I'm going to have to look that up. Might be in my Google history forever. But if y'all haven't, guys, go check out the laser engraving community page. Steve and I are in there checking in from time to time. It's a place for everybody to share their works. But guys, keep in mind now, we don't, not trying to be too controlling here, but we don't want it to turn into, the who's who among spammers either. So, if you want to share what you're doing or whatever, if you got some useful information or, useful links, feel free. But we've had a couple people go in there and just start spamming it. And, we can't have that. I'm trying to have a decent place for everybody to share without it being too crazy. Like I said, but go check that out over on Facebook. I did change the name of the group so that it actually, when you type in, laser engraver community, it should have a little bit easier time pulling the right one. But that's what the ones I got are made of. Jason, I don't know. I don't know which ones he's talking about. See you, Ron. Have a good one. Good night. I'm just sitting out here because I can't go back in the house until it slacks off raining. I'm stuck. My computer will get wet. I did bring my backpack, though. What are you looking up over there? You don't go down a rabbit hole.
No, just wondering if you're like a what is it, Gremlins? You don't want to get them wet.
No, my computer equipment is. You see all this, dude? Like, look at all this stuff I got sitting here. Like, let me turn this camera where you can see a little better. Like I could launch a space shuttle from here. See? I could launch a space shuttle
that they had.
Yeah. So I mean, I got my little controller here. Got the laptop. Then I got all this microphone apparatus over here. I do have my second screen now, so that's good. But yeah, it's I want all this to get wet. I got a lot of money invested in this stuff. I take care of it. All right, no more questions, guys. We're just gonna sit here and let Steve make fun of me. Paint for lettering tires? Well, yeah, I guess somebody would have to have paint for lettering tires.
There you go. That's probably what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'd look that up.
Y'all stumped Steve. Steve is stumped. There's the thunder. Can you hear that? Yeah, see, around where I live, they had hail this morning that was about the size of a golf ball that like literally busted the windows out of people's cars. And I woke up and I could hear it hitting the windows of my house. And I was like, please no, because we don't have a garage or anywhere to like house our cars here. So they're just sitting out in the elements. There you go. I'll let you have this one there, Steve. You're the power setting guru.
Yeah, I could tell you better in a week because I don't have any of my notes on what I've been working with. It's going to greatly depend on what laser you have. It's also going to depend on what color the tumbler's paint is or powder coating is, and also how thick the powder coating is. The one thing to be careful of that is if it's a stainless steel cup, you definitely don't want to overpower it because you will blast through the paint or the powder coating, and then you'll start affecting the steel to where it gets darkened. So, yeah, I wish I'm not inside where I have my notes either for that, but I'm trying to remember them. Do you have any recommendations to start?
What size machine is it? I can give you a guess. And if y'all are talking about the house window, guys, that thing snake bit. This window guy has stood us up for 3 weeks. So nobody wants to fix this window. And I don't know if that's what they're talking about. Is the one in the house. It's just cracked. Luckily, it doesn't leak. But we're going on 16 years of trying to get this thing fixed. And this is like the 4th window guy. Nobody will ever show up.
So they're
Yeah.
talking about a 20-watt Acer or a 20-watt Comgrow. So a 20-watt machine.
20 watt. Well, 20 watt. I would say probably I would start out around 100, but I would turn the LPI up to make sure. I would run the LPI up around probably 200 or so, just to get a good clean burn without the little lines. You get a little bit finer lines.
And when you say
I usually
100,
run 80 on a 10 watt. Do what?
and you're talking millimeters a second.
Yes, millimeters per second. Let me get one of my tumblers out over here.
So, because 100 a minute would be really slow, but
Yes, it would. Let me wipe this off because, as you can tell, it's been sitting on the shelf for a while. It's a little dusty. But that's one that I did for the fire department, and this camera does not focus as well. Hang on, let me get the Sony pulled up, guys. But there's a cup that I did, and this is on a 10 watt, but that's what the LPI run up to. I can't see my screen and the cup at the same time. That's what the LPI run up to, about 200 right there. You get a lot cleaner, shinier finish. Now, not all tumblers are created equal, so you're going to want to make sure that whatever the tumbler is, you're going to have to up or raise or lower your power, so to speak. Meaning you're going to need go hotter for the lighter colors and a little cooler for the dark colors like black. So the color does make a difference. I would say probably 20% between. There's probably a 20%, 30% change between white and black. So I would you have to adjust because I run 60 millimeters per second on white tumblers, and I run 80 millimeters a second on black ones on a 10 watt. I haven't done a lot of tumblers with the 20 watts, but as soon as I get the Acer rotary up and going, I have an order I've got to do for a wedding, and I do plan on making a video of that. I don't know if those are going to be colored or if those are going to be solid stainless. She hasn't really let me know on that yet. But I do plan on doing a 20 watt tumbler video soon, because that's some of my more popular videos on my channel are the ones that I've done tumblers. So figure it's about time for a 20 watt tumbler video. A lot depends on the material. One pass, 3 to 5 passes on a tumbler.
That was probably, he's asking from an Atom Stack A5 Pro. One pass for 3 millimeter. Not sure what the material is. But if you're not getting settings that are close to what they're saying, it's one of two things. They're probably using different material, or there's a difference between like basswood plywood and solid basswood. Anytime you get into the plywood, you've got glue layers and differentiating grain that can make a difference. But if it's sometimes they just say 3 millimeter plywood. Well, that can be a huge difference if it's a solid core, MDF core, a poplar core. They're all gonna kind of cut differently. So it's there are guidelines to kind of start from. If you're way off from them, then yes, maybe there's an issue with the setup. Or sometimes I've seen the G code, the power settings are actually, they're not set at 1,000. They're set at like 256, which is automatically cutting your power down by by 2/3 or a quarter. So there can be things that are little glitches with that. So, but again, it's as long as you're comparing apples to apples, it should be close. If not, it might be a material difference or there might be something wrong.
Yeah, like I said, focus and of course the lens being clean would be the two. That would be my two things to look at. If you feel like you're not getting the power out of the machine that you should. Just my 2 cents there.
Jumping back to this one, generally no. So the issue here with the diodes is you're in a visible wavelength, and so the color is going to matter because that color of light is going to interact with different colors differently, whereas the CO2 is using an invisible light that the color that it's interacting with doesn't really matter. It's the same reason why it can interact with clear acrylic and glass without any sort of coating. Um, but the thickness of the material or the type of material is then what's going to make a difference. Or the consistency. I've had some tumblers where it was powder coated, and if it's thicker in one area and thinner in the other, it'll drive you nuts because you got to use more power to blast through the one. But if you overpower on the other area, it starts darkening the stainless steel behind it. So no, color generally doesn't matter so much with CO2s, but it can still have some variables to it. But
Yeah, and I agree with Jack. If you can, I know you're not always able, I don't necessarily do a power scale on every color tumbler I get. But if I switch brands of tumblers, especially because I can tell you right now, the Walmart tumblers or the Academy Sports tumblers engrave totally different than a Yeti or an Orca or some of the other expensive brands. A Yeti, it's tough. You got to really throw some power at them to get the powder coating off of them. So, especially when it comes to different manufacturers, I recommend if you mess up on a cup and do something you shouldn't, run a power grid on it. You may find that by doing a small adjustment to your power settings, you can get a lot better results. I usually, when I swap tumblers, I order one extra, and I go ahead and just sacrificial lamb, throw it on there, do a power test on it, and now I still drink out of them around the shop because they still work. They just got a power grid on them. But if you ever forget what settings you use, you just go get it out of the cabinet, and there you go. Or while you're drinking out of it, you can just look up your power settings. But this one's gotten beat up in the dishwasher. I do not do, I don't do what they tell you to. I wash them in the dishwasher. So that one's gotten beat up. Or that or in the back of the truck. I'm not sure which. But the Sarah marks come off of that one. I missed the first half of that one. It works better with laser garble than light burn. Steve, I think he's going to have the same problem you had that time. You remember when you had a machine that was limited in light burn? I think he may have that issue. Do we need to go into light burn?
Yeah. Sometimes if the device profile gets set up a little wonky, I've found it's best to just delete that profile, have it redetected, or reset it up. And that's occasionally solved some issues where I'm seeing just some kind of, whether it's not moving the right number of steps, drawing an inch square and it's not coming out an inch, or whether you're not getting the power and such. So that can be it. Generally, when I see power issue differences, it's not so much between laser Gerbil and Lightburn, but it's more like proprietary software like XCS from Xtool to Lightburn, because there are some differences that Lightburn tries to calculate. So sometimes they'll try to be doing the your high and low power adjustments, whereas the others are not always, and that can make a difference in your cutting. But yeah, I mean, if it's working in laser Gerbil, at least the machine's working. Then it's just kind of trying to tag down what's it doing in Lightburn. You can sometimes have different settings needed between softwares just because of the way they interpret things. So.
Did a material test and it only etched the scale with no squares?
Well, you can adjust the settings for both, and so if your settings, if your settings were accurate, that's one thing. But also you got to remember that Lightburn will default to millimeters per second, whereas a lot of the others will default for diodes to millimeters per minute. And so if you're trying to, if you don't make that adjustment between the two, then yeah, it's going to be way off.
The setting that you were talking about a while ago, Steve, if you can put me on a big screen just to make sure he knows what you're talking about with the S value. The S value that Steve's talking about in Lightburn is this number right here.
Your menus.
If that's my menus aren't showing up. Oh, yeah, that's going to be an issue. Okay, well, that was a great idea, but it didn't. Hang on, let me do it. Let me do it in the other software. Give me just a second. Let me
Sure.
screen share with the other software.
Otherwise,
Let me do it that way.
console, there we are.
How about now?
Yep.
How about now? Does that work? All right. So here's the number that Steve's talking about. If that's not at a some of them I think are at 100, but I think the majority of the ones I've seen lately is 1,000, right, Steve? But that has to be at 1,000. If it's not, then you're going to be operating on a percentage of your machine's output. Like if it was 250, you would basically be limited to 25% output. If it was 500, you would be at 50% output, so forth and so on. So make sure that your S value hasn't been changed, because I think, didn't you have one, Steve, that got messed up and for some reason it had you limited?
Yeah. The first time I set up the Acer, something got royally screwed up in my profile, and I was fighting with it. You even sent me yours, and before I tried yours, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna wipe and reload. And then when it reloaded that second time, then it was fine. But yeah, I was trying to adjust that. I was trying to adjust other things, but I was just like, this is not, it was not cutting like even a 10 watt when it was a 20 watt. So
sorry, my OCD. You were on the wrong side. I had to fix it. Mine is now set at 1,000, and it was 250. He said.
yeah,
Look at there.
that would do it.
Look, guys. Hey, hang on. We have fixed another one during the live shows. There it is.
I think you need more of a cheering one for that.
Well, now I do have that. I mean,
let's see.
Careful what you
just not give him ideas.
Careful what you ask for.
I know.
But yeah. But I love it when we can actually help somebody fix their machines, especially because I know how annoying that can be. And you do too. What was the machine that I had the other day, the ASMR, the config file, we had to go through there and fix that thing. That was challenging. My buddy Klein was over here, and I think he was getting a little worried that I was going to go postal. Because it was like 2 hours of me trying to fix this machine. All right, well, it's starting to slow down on the rain. But anyway, guys, if you hadn't already, by all means. Oh, that's unfortunate. That mirror effect has mirrored my subscribe button. Oh. But if you hadn't already, guys, go hit that subscribe button. Go check out myself or Steve on Facebook. We share all kinds of stuff, answer questions, repairs. Hey, we could even help you fix your machine during a live right there. So there you go. We've already fixed one tonight. Who wants to be next? Yeah, I had to I'm having to reverse engineer the mirroring, so that's kind of messed everything else up over here. I could turn that off for a little while until we get through. That way I can fix it on the back end instead of trying to fix it on the front end. Now, watch this, Steve. Look at that. There you go.
I just covered it up. Joseph, one of the big differences now the Acer comes with, now you've got that comes with a separate rotary that's not attached to the chuck, correct?
What's that? The Acer?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Acer, it comes with, all the same parts as the X tool, as far as what I can tell.
But here's the thing. The roller one is a complete and separate unit, whereas the RA2, you have to convert it. You have to take the chuck off, and you got to convert it when you want to use it in rollers. So that's one of the big differences there.
Yeah, the only thing you got to do here is unplug the cable from that one, I'm assuming. And it may come with two cables. I haven't really got into it that far. But then you've got another cable that plugs into this guy. Yep. Or you can plug it into this one there.
So short of actually running them side by side, I don't have the
Which
Acer
is
one to test out, but um, as far as the Chuck rotary, the Acer looks a little beefier and it doesn't require as much swapping of parts to make it do different things. So I think it's a little bit easier to use, but you're going to have a lot of the same features in either one of them.
and it comes with these guys too. And this one actually does have like a little suction cup like thing, so that
Yeah,
I haven't used it yet.
the
But
RHU's got that similar, that impost thing, and then so does the Ortour.
so, but I do have both of the chucks, so I don't know that I could run them both at the same time. But I could. Boy, that would be complicated. But I could try. But it'll be a little while. Like I said, I got a bunch of stuff I got to get done with. I got to get some insulation in here. But I will say that the Acer is much larger and much heavier. I can tell you that from first glances. And the thunder rolls. As soon as I can get it. Hopefully this week I'll be able to do it. I've got to get me some insulation in here and work towards the air conditioning while I've got some time off. But hopefully I've got that video that I did today. I've got one more video I've got to do, and then I'm going to get to the Acer, the KR2 or KR Pro 4-in-1, whichever they call it. Hopefully I can get it. I can get it done this week. Look, Steve. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Well,
There, and you said the quality of the show was going down with my addition of toys.
I said, well,
Yeah, you did. See, look.
I was trying to think of that.
All right.
That quote from the Red Green Show: "If they don't find you handsome, at least they'll find you handy."
Hey, that's Either way. Can't be funny. Always be funny looking. I tell you, I did that one just for Brian. Just for Brian. But now I got all kind of little cool sounds in here, Steve. I'm gonna look at putting something else in here for like your technical stuff. Oh, I do need something for that because I don't have any like sciencey, like Steve Urkel type stuff yet. But I need to find some of that.
Well, just go on Fiverr and put a request in. You get something custom made.
Yeah, I'll find one. All right, guys, we're winding down. Don't let us bore you. If y'all got questions, come on, because I'm still
Jack,
reined in for the
I kind of answered this earlier. How long have you been doing this? So when I actually had one in my shop was 10 years ago this week. But I was using my friends for that one probably for a good 6 months or so before that. And I had been looking at building one that was called the flat printer, and it was kind of a roller. It would feed. It was a CNC machine that was more like a similar like an inkjet printer kind of thing, where it would feed the material through, and the head would go back and forth and up and down. But then my friend sold me his because he was upgrading. So yeah, for me, it's a little over 10 years that I've been messing around with CNC type machines, and I've had my laser. Almost 8 years was when I got my CO2. It was a couple of years after I got that CNC machine. So I've been playing around with them for a while.
Yeah, I haven't had them that long, like a year and a half now. But I've done a lot. Let's just put it that way. I've stayed busy. As Steve says, Steve's always accusing me of not sleeping, which I do sleep some.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I mean I do. If I didn't sleep, you don't want to be around me if I don't get any sleep. But now I do only require 5 to 6 hours. It's getting closer to 6 the older I get. Used to, I could make it on like 4 or 5 hours, but now it's 6 is kind of my sweet spot. Uh, that's kind of where I like to land, around 6 hours. Hang on, I've got you. I got you, Steve. I done found one for you. Here we go.
Slow clap. Jeff's been running CNC machines for almost 50 years. Well, that's awesome. I'm guessing it was part of your what you did for a living or such, and I'm guessing it was more of the metal. That's one of the things I like about working at the community college. We've got a computer integrated machining group, and so they've got all sorts of fun equipment that I get to go and drool over.
Yeah, CNC's for him to have been doing it that long, that would have to have been in a work environment, I would think, because not very many people could afford one back then, unless it was a business.
As far as my CNC stuff, I do most of my generation, my G code generation in Vectric VCarve. And then as far as controllers, the Onefinity comes with what's called a BuildBotics controller. It's built off of a Raspberry Pi, but it's all kind of integrated. The open builds, that one is running Mach 3, which is a fairly popular CNC controller. And then the Stepcraft is using UC CNC. I've also used Linux CNC as well, but I haven't gotten into some of the Gerbil type ones. So that's also why I wouldn't mind picking up that SaneSmart 4040 Pro to kind of play around with that to get a little experience with some of those.
Yeah, he's a retired master CNC machinist. Well, see, he did come over and he did start teaching us some stuff. I would love to have a plasma cutter CNC, a metal CNC, a wood CNC. Man, I'd be like in heaven. Now I'd be having to study a lot, but I would really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, I'd love to have more metalworking stuff in my shop, but metalworking and woodworking doesn't always mix well. And as a matter of fact, I only have a couple of them. One of them's right down here. If I can grab it out. There we go. It's a little mini Sherline lathe. So very much not CNC controlled, but allows me to do.
Oh, so that's a little small. Like, is that a metal lathe that you got there?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a wood one.
Yeah,
I've got a wood one. You didn't hear you missed that sound effect a while ago, didn't you?
Oh no, I heard it.
Oh,
kids
toys come out faster than I'm. Hey man, I can't help it. Yeah, see, that's the problem I'm having. Steve points me in the right direction for these toys, and I get them and I play with them, and he's like, "No, you're But yeah, this thing's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people get kind of hung up where they get pre-buyer's remorse, where they don't want to buy a machine because they're afraid about what's going to come out just after that. And technology changes so rapidly, and right now it just feels like there's a dialed laser race going on with a lot of the manufacturers. So what I would tell people is pick what you want to do, pick your budget, find something you're comfortable with, and just jump in and start playing with it, start using it. And that kind of goes true for most any tools or toys or technology. It's too easy to have buyer's remorse. So you got to kind of pick what your parameters are. And when you find something that meets it in your budget, just go with it and be happy with it.
Yeah, I will say this. Part of my problem lately is I'll be looking at two different machines and I'll be like, well, I don't know if I want this one or if I want this one. And I wait because I'm trying to decide. And before I can decide, the company comes out with something that's even better than the one I was looking at. So now it's like, okay, now I got to start over, this process of trying to decide which one I want. Hey, Tom wants to know what all you got under that bench. He said you just keep pulling stuff out. How big of a bench is that?
There's a push block for a table saw. There's that.
It's like that. It's like a magician's hat. He just keeps pulling stuff out, guys.
Got some table saw blades.
It's like the TARDIS under his desk, Gallagher said.
If anybody needs some adjustable CO2 tube mounts, these won't fit mine the way it is. You can raise it up, lower it, clamp it. All sorts of random toys.
Ron, that's how you get new machines. That making my wife things is actually how I got my first upgrade. Is because I was like, well, I would make that for you, but I need this machine to be able to do that. And she doesn't know. Just don't let her watch your videos when you say that. Good night, Brian. Have a good night, man. Have a good night. We enjoyed it.
Transfer tape.
Yeah. Jeff says your bench reminds him of Captain Kangaroo. I was thinking about what was the show where the guy like had a box and like he could just dream up stuff and pull it out of the box.
I don't know. There's a router table plate, new in box.
Hey, I can't say the name. Gretchen Zeppelin said he'd give you $10 if you can find a woman's shoe under there.
Probably not that. Yeah. No, it's.
Here's a technical question. Finally, other than just making fun of Steve. Which is the A5? Is that the Atom Stack 5-watt?
Yeah, the A5 is an Atom Stack. I don't remember if it's. Or level on it, but yeah, it sounds.
In my opinion, limit switches aren't a necessity; they're more of a luxury.
Yeah, so I don't remember what they get for those. I know the Sculpt Fun ones were pretty cheap. You're talking maybe. I think the upgrade kit was like $24, $25. If that's all Atom Stack's asking for them, and you feel that you'd get some use out of them, sure. But if they're going to ask like $100 for an upgrade, then I'd pass on them.
Yeah, I mean, because I've got the X-Tool, one before the limit switches, and I've got the one that came out since the limit switches. I can get the same results with both machines as far as consistency and accuracy. So I don't, I don't know that I'd drop a whole lot of money on it, but now I would see to where it could be useful, and it is a nice upgrade to have. Yeah, Chris says there's a new challenge called "What's Under Steve's Desk." We need to start like at the beginning of the live. Somebody's gonna have to ask, "Is there a whatever?" and see if they can get it right.
All right. How about
Did you find a woman's shoe?
No. Apparently, there's a $5 Starbucks gift card. So if anybody thinks it's worth anything, there's the numbers for you.
Oh. But you keep cleaning, you're going to find something you didn't know you had, such as a Starbucks gift card.
Hey.
All right, guys. Well, it's still raining, but I've got to figure out how to get my stuff in the house without getting it soaking wet. Don't want to ruin all my new gear, but got this whole workstation here that's got to go inside. I think this is just really cool that I can swap my cameras and all now. I promise, guys, I will practice it And I also promise that I will be adding to what in the world have you pulled out from under your desk, Steve?
That's what I was going to ask. Does anybody know what this is?
I know what it looked like when I glanced over there. And we're, whew. Was that an attempt at a dorsal fin for a shark?
No. And actually, if I tell you what they are, you're going to shake your head at me because it implies of having another machine. Here's another thing that goes with it.
Look like wing caps, like for the wing of something.
Here, warmish.
Well, I mean, it's all I can tell you, and it looks like it was made from some type of a really hard plastic, which almost makes me think that you have some type of a machine that will do like molding, like you can mold stuff like a pressure molder.
So yeah, this is a canopy mold for an airplane, and this is for the wheel pant. And yes, it's for a vacuum former. I have a couple of those.
I'm just going to leave that one right there. Hey, Chris wants to know if you got a left-handed screwdriver under there. Or all yours right-handed screwdrivers.
Well, let's see. I don't know about that. I have a left-handed toothbrush.
Yeah, that's some serious cleaning right there, bro. All right. Well, hey, guys, I hate y'all missed it, but I even had some beats laid out tonight, the sound effect for that. Oh, I even had some beats in the mix for tonight.
Found it.
You found it. What'd you find?
This is what I mentioned earlier. So this is a 3D printed. You can probably see it better against my hat. Here we go. It's a 3D printed tool, and you put these little ends into the belt, and you twist it with the belts in the right way, and then this little gauge goes up, and it's supposed to help you get the tension right and equal on your X-Tool lasers. I'm not sure that it works for any of the others because they'd have to have that kind of loop style and such, but I will try to find this file, and then I will put it in the laser engraving group, Facebook group, for anyone that wants to play around with it.
Cool.
But
neat. The lights just flickered. So if they go out completely, Steve, you can sign off for me. This weather's starting to get rough down here. Down here in the Tornado Alley. Hey, look, Jason says, and I just want to throw this out there because you said that I am bringing down the quality of the show. Says we're awesome. Keep doing what you do. Your videos are great, very informative. And at least for him, it helps keep me motivated when I get a little discouraged or frustrated with laser engraving. So I'm going to take that as the sound effects were a hit. That's what I'm getting from it right there. So with that being said, hopefully I can add more sound effects next week. I'm going to try to come up with one. And we need to, that's what I'm going to do for the thumbnail. It's going to be a what's under Steve's desk thumbnail. That's what I need. So I'm going to need you to give me a picture for that. But anyway, guys, appreciate you. Glad everybody got to come and hang out with us. It's really fun. I hope I know we helped fix one machine tonight, and maybe somebody else that comes along and watches the replay, maybe they'll have that same problem. And from X-Tool 10 and 20, how can I share to this chat? Flying High, that would be the Facebook group that we're in. A lot of the guys, not all of them, but a lot of the guys are members in that Facebook group, and I'm trying to put it on the screen. But that is the name of the page, and I have changed that name. I need to update that. But it's if you go to facebook.com groups, it's actually Laser Engraving Community. That's the name of it. So it's pretty easy to find. Myself and Steve are both in there, admins on the channel. We try to help everybody out. And we got a lot of really helpful guys in there. Some of them, like, the guy that was doing CNC for 50 years, he could probably teach me and Steve a thing or two. There's a lot of good guys in there that would be more than willing to help you out. And yeah, you can share your pictures in there flying high. That's what that's for. That's for you guys to show stuff that you're doing, things that you're building, problems that you're having. That's what we created that for. To be able to put that stuff in there, because unfortunately we're streaming to YouTube and Facebook, so doing it in the live stream is really not an option. So, but go add to that, and I appreciate that. I don't know if they're talking to me, but I'm just going to assume they're talking to me, Steve. There we go.
Yeah,
Hey.
it's all you.
But anyway, I'll let Steve talk to y'all for a minute while I sit here and try to figure out another sound effect to add.
Yeah, no, it's another great evening. Thanks everyone for coming out. Again, make sure you subscribe to both channels. That's great support for us, and you'll always see what we are talking about at these events. Looking forward to seeing you all back next week with more sound effects and more random stuff that I'm pulling out from my shop.
Yeah, the new thing. What is under Steve's desk? Y'all have a good one. Be safe.
Catch y'all later.
Drum roll for a new gear.